Here we go, Pallazzo Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Michael Govier, Christopher Deary, and today's special guest, Justin Mason. What up, though, buddy?
Not much. How you doing?
We already asked each other how we're doing before we came on the air. So it was really an obligatory how you're doing for the rest of the audience. But yes, we admitted we were pretty busy and a lot was happening, and we hadn't talked much since the season began. We wanted to get I wanted to definitely get Justin back on because I missed him, and the season will probably be over the next time we have a chance to talk about it again. So
I know. I mean, this season is going really fast. I don't know if it's the fact that we had a 60-game season last year and we're already over 60 games at this point, or if it's just we missed baseball. But it just feels like it's moving a lot faster than it traditionally is, and that it's going to be over a lot sooner, which I will be bummed about unless I win a bunch of money.
It's because we're old and time just goes quicker now.
Time!
Thanks for that one, Chris.
That's lovely, Chris. What a beautiful sentiment. Time does fly by on the Rico Pallazzo Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Don't forget, 2 L's, 2 Z's.
Utah, give me 2.
The live stream is now available live. You can talk to us in the comments section. Drop a comment, and we'll talk about it. Whatever you want, however you want it. This is the Pallazzo Podcast. We aim to please you. Don't forget, we're presented by RotoFanatic.com. RotoFanatic.com has great people doing great shit. In fact, Phil Goyette's updated rookie ladder for hitters is officially out. So go to RotoFanatic.com and check that out. Big bumps from Mountcastle, and I think some drops from some other prospects. I only remembered Mountcastle from the headline, so I'm going to be honest there. But I'm sure he's covering all the... Adolis Garcia. What a shocker.
Finally happened.
Yeah, see, Deary? I'm sure, Justin... I haven't had a chance, like I said, to talk to Justin much, but I'm sure you were predicting the demise of Adolis Garcia at some point.
I mean, yeah... You just can't swing and miss that much and continue to do what he was doing. I mean, I think he will still show power. I think he can still steal bases. But he's very much like Carlos Gomez was when he was in the majors, which was a guy when he's running hot, he's one of the best teams or one of the best players in the league. And that's why he was a first-round pick in some years. And then when he's not making contact, he's not usable. And that's why he burnt out of the league.
See? Exactly what we've been saying, right, Deary?
You can't live with a 30% K rate.
I mean, you can live with 30% K rate in today's Major League Baseball.
You got to do other things. Adolis doesn't do other things.
Yeah,
well, he's a good fielder. Not fantasy-wise, but as an actual baseball player, he's been pretty solid as a defender. But. And
I mean, being on Texas is like best case scenario for someone like him because they've got no reason not to just run him out there. So.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. That's the big difference here. When you have a shit team and you're worried about losing playing time, you don't have to sweat it when your team sucks. So,
yay! Especially with the trade deadline approaching, guys who might be in playing time crunches in places like Detroit or Arizona or Texas, those playing time crunches, even Miami, for like Jesus Sanchez, like those playing time crunches are going to lessen as guys get traded off those teams.
Yep. There's no doubt about that. Well, that's enough of Adolis Garcia talk for one show. Today's episode, we're going to talk about the catch of the day. It's obvious. I mean, it was on the cover. Wander Franco has arrived. The big moment is here. Woohoo! Yay! I'm sure everyone's coming in their pants and already blew their load last night. It's kind of old news now. Is he on the bench tonight, or did he start again? Anybody got an update? Give me a Wander Franco update right now.
He played.
They're playing right now. I don't believe so. I'm pretty sure we'd have seen it all over Twitter had he done something. So
boring. No more fun.
Clearly, he's a bust at this point. I mean, he's already fallen apart in the second game of his career.
He's 0 for 2. Drop him.
See?
That was a good run. Had to close out sometime, Kev. But yeah, so Wander Franco Mania is here. We're going to talk about that. We will talk about the innings pitch clock. It's a strategy session. Are there concerns, limitations? Guys like Tarek Skoob, Carlos Rodon, are these guys going to be here for you in August? Return to the max with players that are on the mend coming up soon, getting the call. We're going to pop in Inquisition. We've done Enrico's Inquisition with Justin, so we kind of know him, but I do want to have a chat, so it's still a part of our rotation. And the Doppelgangers, players with similar Statcast or data profiles overall, but different results. So you got 2 players or 1 player. One is doing great. but another player has a very similar profile stat-wise, but they're not getting the same results. So we're going to see if we can find some of those. And, of course, name that runner-up FAAB, everybody's favorite game. Justin, you're going to love this game. It's a lot of fun. It's really not complicated. Name that runner-up FAAB.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Like I said, you guys can drop your comments in here. Derek Schaefer says, Wander's 0 for 2. Thanks for the update. Appreciate that. Derek, what's up, buddy? Joe Gentile. Joe. God, I love Joe. Joe's great. Joe is one of these finest human beings that I've had the pleasure of meeting over the last year. You know, Justin excluded, of course. And he says that Chas McCormick with another bomb, currently on a 31 home run pace. Thoughts? How long until he wins MVP? I did try to pick him up in my main event this week, and I lost out on the bid. I will say that.
He needs to find playing time. Is he going to take over for Miles Straw? Because Miles Straw has been on a heater too recently. So I don't know. I think it's hard. He needs someone to get injured is what happens. You know, he needs Jordan or Brantley to go down. I know Brantley got pinch hit for earlier in the game tonight. So I don't know if that was injury related or not. But
he's been on a tear.
Tear. I mean, it's hard when you're on a team like the Astros. It's hard to find playing time because there's just so much talent. So he needs an opening somewhere.
He damn right about that. I think Michael Brantley's hitting like 500 over the last month. It's insane. He's just
520 over the last week. I think they may have pulled him tonight because they were up 13-0. Give him a little bit of rest after he got back from the DL because he's been raking here the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's well deserved. But yeah, that's a good point. Chas McCormick is a fun bat, and he's making shit happen. Plus, he has that great photo, a classic profile picture of him looking like he just started his first year of college. And he's not cool at all. Not cool at all. But nerds are cool in our world. So it's not a negative connotation, in my opinion. At any rate, Justin, I mean, of course, tell people what they need to know. People want to connect with you. I mean, I don't know how the world works or how people absorb this stuff. You really don't. But maybe there's somebody out there who's never heard of you and doesn't know that you're a big part of the Sleeper and the Bust and Friends with Fantasy Benefits. So, share with the world.
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me on Twitter at Justin Mason FWFB. I've got Facebook, YouTube, all sorts of the social. I even have TikTok now.
You're going into TikTok?
I've had a TikTok for like a year. I have one video of me getting out of the pool in my Justin Mason swimsuit. Yeah. Yeah. That's the only video, but I'm on there. I believe I have a Snapchat as well. I don't use it. I've actually deleted that account.
I believe I have one.
Snapchat still around?
I don't know. Matt Thompson used to send me the weirdest random snaps, and I was like, I'm just done with this. So
I think it's a relic now.
Yeah,
it'll be cool in it'll be cool again in 5 years.
Yeah, but TikTok just destroyed Snapchat. I don't hear about Snapchat at all. But I'm old too, so I'm not allowed to be cool.
Yeah, I don't know what the kids do anymore. So, but yeah, you could read my stuff. Most of it's on Fangraphs, but obviously I co-own Friends of Fantasy Benefits and write over there and do the podcast there, and also do the podcast TGFBI as well as Sleeper on the Bus. So, yeah, I'm around.
I pride myself and think of myself as a man of faith.
That's him. That's Justin.
I am a man of faith as well.
That's true. So, I thought that was going to be and there's a deep drive left field home run, but that was the wrong button. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, shit happens when you're producing on the fly. I tried to update it. I'm trying to get some new ones mixed in there. Bottom line is Justin's the best. Justin, when are you going to make the switch, or how are you focusing? Because you do football as well. So how does that fit into your time schedule here with baseball being so important and certainly the focus for you? But we're in almost July. Training camps will be starting up next month. How does it look for you?
I'm not doing football this year.
You're not.
There it is.
I made the decision in 2020 not to do football because I did not think there would be a season. There were so many issues with COVID in the baseball season and football. Yeah. You've got guys lining up. You literally before the play huddle around each other, and then you've got guys who are facing right in front of each other on the offensive defensive line, and then people are tackling. But I didn't think there was any way they were going to make it through the season. So I went, I'm not covering football because I don't want to spend all summer, all fall, all winter doing work and then find out that they're not going to make it through. I was wrong, thankfully, because I enjoy football. But I've decided that my life is super, super busy right now. And baseball is, for most analysts in the industry, where they make their money is football. I am blessed to make my money doing baseball. And so This year, I'm not going to cover football. I'll play. I do my own research for myself and for my wife, apparently, because she needs me to help her with the draft on Saturday. But other than that, I'm not covering football this year. I anticipate I will get back to it next year, but I've got a lot of things going on in baseball, and I've got other things in the works as well. So I need to kind of focus my time and effort there. Plus, I have a family. It's they need a little bit of time. I have to cut out 5% of my life to go towards Danielle and the kids.
You think you're going to get the itch come November?
I mean,
at least you'll still be playing. So.
I'll be playing, but no, I will not get the itch to have given content out. It takes a lot. I mean, I applaud the guys that do 2 or 3 or 4 sports. It takes a lot of work, especially with the overlap. The overlap is killer.
Guys like Welsh and
Scott and Chris from ITL, Vlad Sedler, Fantasy Guru. There's a lot. Almost anybody who's on Sirius covers both football and baseball. But it's a drain, and for me, baseball never ends. I know a lot of people take breaks during the playoffs from writing or podcasting, or in November and December. I'm writing the entire way through. I'm writing daily all the way through October, November, December. It's actually some of my busiest time because I'm preparing a draft guide. I'm doing the prep for my, and I start my prep in August. Next month, a month and a half from now, I will start my prep for the 2022 season of baseball. So I'm okay taking football off this year.
Amazing.
Well, that's great. I thought we had a conversation you started doing Fantasy Alarm again. Maybe that was a memory
I was doing DFS content for Fantasy Alarm for baseball this year, and it probably would have done football content for them as well. But I made a decision recently that I had a lot of family stuff going on, and I was spread thin. I started a new job last year where I'm no longer working overnights, and therefore I could sleep more than 2 or 3 hours a day.
You start to notice it, right? You start to notice, I don't think I can do this properly. You want to keep a certain level.
Mm-hmm. And I wasn't sleeping. I was working during the day and still only sleeping 2 or 3 hours a day to get all my content in.
Monsters!
And so, I love Fantasy Alarm. It's a fantastic organization. I highly recommend you subscribe over there. They do lifetime subscriptions, which are more money up front, but then you never have to pay again, and you're a subscriber for life. It's a great organization. But I had to take a step back and kind of focus on the things that were a little bit more controllable for me.
Totally understood, and I'm with you there. And I like that. That's why I love Justin, because he keeps it real, and he'll tell you exactly why he's doing the things he does. If you want genuine authenticity, Justin Mason's the guy, right, Deary?
Oh, absolutely. I applaud him taking a step back, give some time to Danielle and the kids, and you got to get ready for 2022 already.
Yeah, It's almost time.
This is Justin Mason in the fantasy football world.
And he stood there like the house by the side of the road and watched it go by. Struck him out.
That's too bad. But hey, there's other things in life. I think about that a lot. I love music. I really like giving my time to other things. And I'm like, do I want to get involved in fantasy football? Because, the Scott Fish Bowl is a big deal. It's a really cool thing that he does. And you technically need to have some type of either win a satellite league, kind of like TGFBI, right? And I don't technically do a fantasy football analysis for anybody, but I've played for 20 years. I have the experience. So at the same time, I do find baseball would end in going away for a while. Kind of taking a break sounds really nice. Not because I don't like baseball or I don't want to do the best to my ability. It's just a matter of hey, I want to get away and kind of break away and enjoy other things in the world. There's nature and shit out there, believe it or not, and I do enjoy those things. I know it sounds weird.
I've never seen this nature that you're talking about. Is this a French word?
It's very complicated. They speak a different language out there, trust me.
Go outside, Mike? You've been going outside?
I have been.
You get some vitamin D in you?
I'm getting a lot of, I started playing softball, like I said, 3 weeks ago.
I saw the video of you throwing the ball around.
I did do that. That really happened. That was at the request of Ed Gillis, by the way. Shout out to Ed. Hope he's doing well. But he wanted verification and proof, so I just go outside over here and throw a ball.
Did Pitching Ninja break down your mechanics?
I'm not. I don't even have 2,000 followers, man. I'm not that cool yet. I think I got to get a little bit bigger. Unlike you, who has cracked the 10,000. Follower barrier. What a moment, dude. Good for you. You earned it. You deserve it. I wonder if you feel like I do. Like, you don't really give a shit, but you do recognize the power that comes with it. How does that sound to you?
The power that comes with having...
I don't mean power like control. I mean like the opportunity. You are now... When you have if there's 10,000 people that are real and they're not bots, you have access and your words can speak to more people and you can connect with people on a greater level. It's a wider net.
I assume they're mostly bots. I mean, when Lisa Ann, who covers fantasy sports now, former adult film star, I believe current adult film star.
You don't know this, Gary? Yeah, she switched out of porn and went into fantasy football for a while ago. Yeah,
that is fucking awesome.
She started following me a few years back, and no joke, the day she followed me, I got 500 new followers.
Yep, there it is.
And they were all porn bots. That's all it was. They just went, oh, Lisa Ann's following him. He must be in porn, which I'm not. And all of a sudden I started getting a bunch of porn bots following me. So I assume like a good 70% of the people that follow me are just porn bots.
Well, Justin, they saw you in the onesie and they got real excited. This is a new up and comer in the industry.
I've been talking about doing an OnlyFans. Like, it's
I'll
time.
pay for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I would.
Only if you talk fancy baseball.
All right, let's do some housekeeping. Of course, we're going to talk about
the Great Spin Rate Panic of 2021.
Does that make sense?
No.
The Great Spin Rate Panic of 2021.
It's hard to decipher what you're saying.
Shit, unbelievable. Too much reverb. One more time.
I know what you're saying.
The Great Spin Rate Panic of 2021.
Spin rate panic of 2021.
Yes. Oh, the spin rate panic. Okay.
I was trying to do it in an old-timey voice.
I heard panic of 2021, and I was like, are we talking about Joe Panic? Like,
the great Joe Panic of 2013 was pretty good that year.
Joe Panic of 2021.
He's still playing in Toronto.
He's one of those guys I think about, and I just start losing interest in what's happening as soon as I think of him. He's one of those boring, the guys over at the ITL, they mastered it with the Jags. He's one of those guys, but it's even less than that. Like, they take the fun out of it. I see a certain player, and I'm like, oh, God, I just not interested. Doesn't get me excited at all. No offense to Joe Panic, but they're out there. All right, so like I said, the Panic Switch 2013 MLB DFS cash game lock. Old school. Thank you, Brock. By the way, Brock will be on the show next week. So if you like Brock, please follow Brock. He's a great dude. He knows a lot about life, and he's kind of part of our crew, Justin. I learned that recently. So
Brock is a great dude. I got to meet him at First Pitch Arizona a couple years ago. Just a really, really great. He drove there randomly with his girlfriend. He didn't originally wasn't going to go, and then just like randomly drove there and showed up. And I was like, hey, it's amazing to meet you. And he's a really good dude. You should be following him.
That's like something you would have done, or you did.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I did for Tout Wars years back, and I think it's probably the only reason I got into Tout Wars.
Amazing. Hey, that's why Justin rules. See, no shame, guys. There's no dignity. There's no pride here. Just go and do your thing and show yourself, sell yourself. Good things can happen. All right, so let's talk about Mr. Belvedere and the housekeeping.
When I first moved here, I blew Mr. Belvedere.
No, that's not it. There we go. We want to say thank you to everybody. We're still welcoming those trophy ideas. Justin, any ideas for our Pallazzo Podcast Invitational Trophy? And by the way, Justin, I want this to be clear. I used the term invitational inadvertently without realizing that technically the TGFBI is called the Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational. But I was actually thinking of, I was watching Happy Gilmore at the time, and he's going to all these golf tournaments, like something invitational. And that's what I was actually thinking of when I popped that into my head. So I don't want you to think like we're trying to steal your thunder.
I never even thought about it. I never even thought about the coincidence. So
that's even better. Great.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
I mean, obviously it should just be a bust of Enrico Pallazzo, right?
That's not...
I mean, like that seems like the appropriate answer.
What do you think, Deary?
A bust of Enrico?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm down with it. I mean, I don't know who's gonna Who's gonna make that for us? Like,
Can our trophy guy do that? I mean, he's your trophy guy. So.
I'm an idea guy. I'm not a put into action kind of guy.
we'll just put a picture. You win a free copy of the VHS of Naked Gun.
Oh, now we're talking. See, these are good ideas. This kind of creativity we want from you guys. So please hook us up. Make it happen. Pallazzo Podcast at protonmail.com. Pallazzo Podcast, 2 L's, 2 Z's, of course, on Twitter, Facebook, blah, blah, blah. Give us an idea, and we'll do it. But we still need an idea, and it's already late June now. Clock is actually really starting to tick a lot. So please, give us something good. I like the
I think we
bust
got 2
idea.
weeks, and then we got to finalize it.
Is that the case? All right, well, there's the reality.
I think so.
I think me and Deary are still total disasters in our own event. Just so you know, Justin, we've been complete failures. Yeah, an embarrassment's fair. I mean, Deary's
Lessons learned.
I have one guy who, I've said this before on the show, I have one guy who can get me saves. It's a draft and hold, right? So do or die with the 50 players you got. And it's Lucas Sims. He's the only guy who can actually get me saves, so there's no way I can win the overall. And in my league, I'm still not, really getting close to making any headway because I drafted Alberto Mondesi with my second pick. Yay! Look at me, the moron. Woohoo! So that hasn't gone well. But, the master is Richard Sands. He is dominating. And we continue to look up at him in the standings. So good on you, Richard.
Richard's a good player. Yeah.
Dude. Hell yeah.
I'm playing in a few leagues with him this year. He's a very good player.
It's very clear that he was asking me for advice in the offseason, but clearly he knows exactly what he's doing. He just wanted to bounce off his own ideas to verify he wasn't insane.
He stole all your good ideas, Mike. And then as soon as you gave them away to him, you had no more good ideas.
Yeah. See, you've got to blame him.
Oh shit, I'm up to 38th overall. That's not bad. That's a nice push for me, Deary. Yay! Woohoo!
Middle of the pack.
Deary's still at 55th, and unfortunately, one of our favorite guests on the show, Steve Paulo.
Is he still at 60?
Dead.
Oh, Steve.
That's sad. I'm sorry, Steve. But keep sending in your trophy ideas. We want to say thank you to our new followers, of course. Seabass. Is that a reference? I don't know you, Seabass, personally, but we welcome you following us on our Twitter account, 2 L's, 2 Z's, it's at 58685. He spells Seabass in one of those weird ways like Matt Williams does with his Twitter handle. Nice to have you. He's a Lightning fan and a Rays fan and a Bucks fan and a Badgers fan and a Brewers fan. I don't know what's going on there. But it all sounds very cool. Thanks for following us. And Odor's Haymaker. This is a sweet handle. Odor's Haymaker is a badass handle. Of course, in reference to the classic showdown between Odor, Rougned Odor, and Jose Bautista. That was a classic, of course. And, that's it for now. So we'll move on from that. We love you guys. Thank you for following us. You make our day. Yay! Woohoo! Yippee! Yeah! And one other thing I wanted to share. I've been doing my Govier's Guys thing. It's just a dumb thing I was doing last summer in the videos that I did every day, like 5 days a week with the Quality Start videos. It's alliteration. Both start with the letter G, so it's really easy to just put together a tweet every day at the end of the night of as many players as will fit in the character limit of the tweet. Well, one tweet only, not multiple tweets. So check that out if you're looking to find out who's doing what. And any given day, it could be anybody. Last night, Wander Franco was on that list. Tonight, he might not be on that list. It all depends who's kicking butt. So thanks for that. All right. So having said all that, Brian K. Rocho says, great ideas, just can't implement it. Well, he's like Brian. He's like you, Justin. Well done. So let's get into leading off. All right, it's leading off. You know what that means?
Good. Our first catch of the day.
It's obvious. Wander Franco's here. We have to pay tribute to it. This is not, what do they call it? Hot take stuff? Or trying to be clicky. This is not clickbaity. It's just, we've been waiting for this a long ass time. So I want to give the moment its fair due. And we haven't been on the air since Sunday. So, Wander Franco's here. He hit a home run off Eduardo Rodriguez of the Boston Red Sox last night. He's wearing number 5 as a tribute to Albert Pujols. Very, very cool. Justin Mason, guest extraordinaire. What else can be said right now about Wander Franco that hasn't been said?
I mean, the upside's immense. I think he's going to be a very, very good player. I have in the past comped him to DJ LeMahieu as a guy who could be a perennial batting title champion type contender. He's got speed. He's got power. It'll be interesting to see how the power does play at the major league level. It played really, really well last night. And even since we've been talking, he's gotten a hit. So he's now 1 for 3 with 2 walks in that game. So, there are some little bit of questions about the power. He had some launch angle issues last year at the alt site. He seems to have fixed them in the minors this year, and he was tearing the cover off the ball. I think that there may be some ups and downs early, but I think he's a pretty safe prospect. And at worst, he's going to be a guy who's probably like a 5th or 4th round pick next year, and he could be a 1st round pick next year. So, kudos to those of you who rostered him at the beginning of the season and held on to him all throughout the season.
Especially through all the fucking injuries. That's amazing if you were able to pull that off.
He was not available in a single one of my leagues, and I'm in 29 leagues. That tells you exactly, no one was letting him go this year. So, you weren't able to get him off FAAB. So those of you who held on to him, congratulations. I hope it's fantastic for you. He's a fun young player. I didn't know this. My wife told me this. Do you know that he's got 2 brothers named Wander Franco?
I
did not know that. No,
that are both in minor league baseball.
Correct. I heard came across something on Twitter where somebody picked up the wrong Wander Franco.
Yep. There's one in the Giants organization, and then I believe one in the Astros organization. Neither of them have made it to the majors. Probably neither of them will make it to the majors. His father is actually named Wander Franco as well. And he is the nephew of the Ibar brothers, Eric and Willie Ibar, who was in. I did not know any of this until my wife told me it earlier today. So
shout out to Danielle.
Yeah, right.
So we get like a George Foreman deal where they're all called Wander Franco.
Yeah, this is. I guess a thing. They all have different middle names, but they're all Wander Franco.
That's funny, but I have heard that Wander, he might not be so good at softball. I've heard that.
You're a lousy fucking softball player.
I've heard that, but I don't know. I mean, he's great at hardball, so that's all really matters. I wonder if somebody calls somebody Wander and they're in the same room and they all look. That's so fascinating. That's so fun. Deary, Byron Buxton got hurt again this week, Deary, and he's bye-bye. A new one. Buxton always reveals the most rare and fascinating injury titles that there ever was. A boxer's fracture, I believe, is what this one is.
Yeah, I heard that yesterday. A boxer's fracture.
Any chance Wander Franco ends up like Byron Buxton?
Oh, geez, that's really interesting. I don't know. I mean, it took Buxton a while. How old was Buxton when he came up? I mean, Wander's only 20 years old.
I want to say he was 21. I'll have to look it up.
21,
but that's off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, the big difference is Buxton immediately was having issues striking out, and he had the same issue in the minors. Franco did not have that issue in the minors. The interesting part for me is going to be, let's say he gets off to kind of the same start that Jared Kelenic came off to. It was like 4 for 40. Does he end up getting dropped in some of these redraft leagues? I mean, we're midway through the season. Playoffs are going to be about 8-9 weeks away. Mm-hmm. Are people going to be dropping him in redrafts? I drafted him in a redraft. I'm really, really glad I held on to him. I did everything I could to try to get him in my dynasty, but it just wasn't working out. Couldn't go ahead and make that deal to get him. I think there's immediate impact right now, but I'm really interested to see if he does go through these struggles after the first month and a half, if he ends up being droppable in redraft leagues.
Woo, Nelly! Wander Franco is... He's so much fun. It's so exciting. I have no shares. I don't get to participate at all right now, so I'll watch from afar and enjoy Wander's wonderful ride. What about you, Justin? Byron Buxton was everything. He was the guy. The classic prototype prospect, king of kings, could do it all. Basically similar to Wander. Obviously, Wander's a little more thick. They don't have the exact body type. Do you think he'll end up like Byron Buxton? Or is that just a ridiculous question? Why would I dare ask that?
I think it is a little bit of a ridiculous question. I mean, Buxton has been a pretty good player when he's healthy. The problem is Byron Buxton cannot stay healthy. And some of it's been his fault. He plays all out, plays great center field defense, runs into walls, hurts himself diving for catches. And then some of it's been super just unlucky. This boxer, injury, which for those who don't know is a crack in your 5th metacarpal. So in your pinky right here, right there, that bone right there. He's going to be out at least 3 to 6 weeks. That's typically how long you have to be casted for. So probably playing for closer to 8 weeks with him. No, I do. I think that Wander Franco has a very unique and elite hit tool. And I think it would be very, very surprising to see him struggle in the way that Byron Buxton has struggled. One, because he doesn't have injury history like Byron Buxton, and two, he's just a better overall hitter than Buxton. Maybe he doesn't show the kind of power that Buxton has shown this year, but I think he's just a better hitter. Though, I mean, we've seen prospects who were number one prospects in all of baseball fail, right? Brandon Wood. I think people forget Aaron Hicks was the Byron Buxton on the Twins before Byron Buxton. And so, I mean, baseball is a tough game, and people who we think are going to be amazing end up not being amazing, and then guys we didn't think would be any good end up being amazing. So, I think it's sometimes it's a little bit of a crapshoot, but from what we've seen from Wander Franco is that he should be at worst a pretty darn good major league regular, especially because his defense is so good for the next 10 to 15 years. I don't think he will be a bust at all.
Whatever, motherfucker!
I agree. I mean, Byron Buxton's a unique, rare case, and he's not a standard issue experience for most baseball players out there. It's been a tough go, but there's still a world where Byron Buxton still has a great career in his 30s. We'll see if that
he's only 27 years old.
Well, and you have to remember too, like Evan Longoria was injury prone, quote unquote, early on in his career, and then became one of the more durable players until the last year. Last year or two. So, I think while we give players an injury prone tags, and sometimes they never shake it because they aren't able to stay healthy. Sometimes as their body matures and finishes growing and gets more muscle and they get more experience on how to treat it, they end up becoming, guys who are able to stay on the field more. And I don't think we give people credit or believe that they have the ability to do that, but we've seen it over and over again with different players.
So what's your take on moving Wander Franco in redraft leagues? Forget Dynasty. It would be absurd unless you wanted to get a complete haul of tons of players right now. The buzz is huge. The buzz is big. The buzz is out of control. But in redraft leagues right now, would you be selling? Or would it be very content specific for you?
Yeah, I think it's content specific. I mean, you've held on to him for this long, right? So, clearly, you paid a price at the draft table, whatever that price was going to be. But he wasn't necessarily free. He wasn't going at the last round of drafts. This was a guy that typically you had to pay a top 200 price tag in snake drafts for. So I don't know that you want to trade him, especially with this hot start. Now, that being said, I'm of the belief that any player is tradable if the right offer is made. If someone is going to, give me a Ricky Williams type return for a player, I don't care who the player is. I'm going to
take Ditka tribute.
Yeah, I'm going to take, the Ricky Williams type trade that, the Washington football team got for Ricky Williams. So nobody is unmovable in my opinion. I just don't believe that. But I'll actively dangle him out. Anybody want Wander Franco? But you're more than likely going to trade whoever Wander Franco is replacing, right? So you had a shortstop on your team that was filling in for you. He's now on your bench. And if that is a usable piece, that's the person you're probably going to end up trading.
That's Gleyber Torres for me. Franco is replacing Gleyber Torres right now, who has no trade value right now in my league. He's got 3 home runs still, and he's been awful the last 3 weeks. I need him to heat up so I can get rid of him.
Everyone on Twitter talks about him. Yeah,
he's been sitting on my bench, and in a 12-team league, I've got NFBC 50 league. I've got him, and I'm in first place in the league, and it's because I've been benching Gleyber Torres for most of the season.
Yeah. People are asking, should I pull the plug now on him for other opportunities, like guys like Brendan Rodgers or Jonathan Scope, who's on fire, of course, who's probably not available in most leagues. I pulled the plug on that heater a little too early, and that's my fault. I predicted the Jonathan Scope here, streak, the intense yearly annual event that shows up, and I pulled the plug too soon, and that really bums me out. But would you drop Gleyber Torres, Deary, for Brendan Rodgers?
Yeah, most likely at this point. I mean, I'm really strong
Really?
at second base and shortstop. I have just a slew of guys. So, I mean, now that I have guys like Conforto coming back, he just came back today. I haven't activated him yet. Nimmo's going to be coming back. And I even have Franmil Reyes, who's going to go on a rehab stint on Tuesday. I need to make room for these guys. So Torres might end up being on the chopping block here.
The Mets need that offense, too, because they've been shut out 4 times over the last week. That's not good. I hear that's pretty bad. Charlie Morton had 11 Ks against them, and that was his best start of the season by far. Not sure I'm buying that, but they definitely need Conforto, and McNeil needs to get going. J.D. Davis, if he ever comes back, of course, Brandon Nimmo's a stud. But I think Wander Franco, like Justin said, anybody's tradable. And especially Gleyber Torres is a guy who only seems to feast on the Orioles. You don't have time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. So you got to move, and you got to start making decisions. Really, you should have started making them in the beginning of this month. But as we move into July, there's not a lot of time left to dilly-dally with players, because this is one of the biggest issues for me, Justin, is waiting it out, trying to be patient, waiting for the law of averages, as I say. Like, eventually a guy like Gleyber Torres is going to end up with 20 home runs, right? But what if it never happens and you just kept that roster spot filled while you missed out on players who could be like an Adolis Garcia, who certainly was worth the value of picking him up and getting all those stats, even if he's not worth keeping the whole year?
Yeah, I mean, this is something I've struggled with, I mean, for years, is like, when do you cut bait on a player? When do you, because I'm one of those guys, like I said, I start my prep in August for the next season. So by the time April rolls around and the season starts, like, I've got 6-7 months worth of prep done, and I don't like throwing the work I've done out. And so I tend to be a very, very, stubborn fantasy player and not want to give up on my guys. But I think the 60-game season really helped me with that last year. Having to churn and burn so quickly because there wasn't any time really helped me kind of become a little bit better of a fantasy player in that regard. And I'm more apt to move on. It would still be hard for me to drop Gleyber Torres. And I know he's been really bad, but I mean, when your best option is someone like Brandon Rodgers, who has his own history of injuries and underperformance, like, I don't know that I want to make that kind of move, especially because Torres is still going to be hitting on one of the best offenses in baseball.
Coors.
There's always Coors, though. It's a fun place to hit. But I understand.
It is, yeah. But, I mean, he only gets to play half his games there. And how long before the Rockies go, oh, wait, we forgot you're young. You don't get to play.
Well, I mean, Jeff Burdick's is gone now, so we're hoping some of that is actually, Garrett Hampson's played a lot this year. He's actually been able to play pretty regularly, so maybe some of that's over, but people who love Sam Hilliard are still pissed because he's in the minors. But that was his own fault because he didn't hit for shit. I will say that. Okay, that's interesting stuff. I'm always going to be fascinated by that, when to pull the plug on a player, Deary, because if anybody gets on a show like this and says, I figured it out, I got it, I did an equation. If somebody has an algorithm or something that tells you when it's time to cut bait, it's bullshit. You can have all the experiential knowledge in the world like you have, like Justin has, like I have, and you could still bail on a guy a little too soon. And all of a sudden the baseball gods say, hey, you know what? It's time for this guy to do well.
It's so league dependent how your team is structured, what categories you're playing, where you're sitting at in the standings. I mean, my league where I'm trying to get rid of Gleyber right now with Franco gone, and I'd trade Franco too. I'm in 8th place. It's a head-to-head league, 6 make the playoffs. I'm only like 5 games out of like 3rd or 4th place, so I'm probably just standing pat right now. But I'd love to make a deal because I'm trying to get some pitchers. But it's a 16-team league, and it's really, really hard to acquire pitchers. But I have a ton of hitting in this league, and I'm starting to get some injuries with pitchers. Savali just went down, which is difficult. But in terms of when to cut a guy, I mean, if you're sitting in 1st place and you have the luxury of holding a roster spot on a guy like a Gleyber Torres, you're probably going to sit with him. But if you're way deep down, you need to try to move on from him somehow and most likely try to make a deal.
All right. Well said, guys. Well said. We're talking baseball here on the it's Enrico Palazzo Fantasy Baseball Podcast, presented by RotoFanatic.com. I am at MJ Govier, G-O-V is in Victor, I-E-R on Twitter, at CDeary1999. That's in Dearly Beloved, not the hoofed, antlered animal that crashes into your car. And Justin Mason, FWFB. Guys.
$60 minutes?
I could have gone with the 60 Minutes one. It's a little faster. It's like,
That would terrify me. Every time I heard that on Sunday, I'm like, fuck, Sunday is over. It's time to go to bed. Like as a kid, I hated that. It just terrified me when the late football game would happen on CBS. And you're like, God damn it, 60 Minutes is coming up. It's time to go to bed soon.
Who didn't have that feeling? Sundays
the worst.
suck when you're in high school.
The worst feeling when you're a kid.
The fun's over. We got to go to school in the morning. At any rate, the reason this clock is ticking, Justin, is because innings pitch limitations are on the horizon. In fact, they might already be here. And we can't prove it yet, but there are possibly pitchers who are on the IL right now, not because they're truly injured. It could be two reasons. First off, Gunkathon, the Gunkapalooza situation, has fucked them up real bad. Or it could be the fact that they're trying to reduce the innings, which is something that the Dodgers have mastered for years and other teams have followed suit. So, I'm not trying to create a panic here, but I've been trying to really trust my gut more and more and not back down from it. I really think this is a big issue, and we need to be concerned about innings pitch limitations for starting pitchers like Carlos Rodon, like Tarek Skubal, anybody who hasn't pitched a lot of innings, especially after the bozo year of 2020. What is your take on this, and am I overhyping it?
I don't necessarily think you're overhyping it. I think it's going to happen to certain players on certain teams. I think it's going to be very difficult to figure out which players it's going to happen and which teams are going to institute it. I think guys like Tarek Skubal, Casey Mize could be the ones that are most affected. These guys that are on non-playoff contending teams, right? Because, we heard from the Brewers, like, oh, we're going to add 100 innings to each guy. That's all well and good until you're the middle of July and August
exactly.
in a playoff race. Like, the Dodgers were a team where people went, we could see them doing more Dodgeritis. They're not even leading the division right now. Like, this is like, I think these teams, especially this year, because they didn't get the expanded playoffs. I think if teams had gotten the expanded playoffs and there were 8 teams in each league getting in, teams would have felt a lot more comfortable, like the Dodgers, in kind of, the Brewers, and kind of taking it down a notch. But there's not really a division in baseball that is, where we feel really confident that there's one team that's going to emerge. I think every single division of baseball is kind of up for grabs right now. And I think that in itself is going to mean teams don't want to dial it back if they're in contention. So, yeah, I would look at the teams like Detroit, like Miami, maybe Sandy Alcantara, is a guy, or Pablo Lopez is a guy that could end up, getting an innings limit type thing, or missing starts. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see Phantom IL stints. You're going to see 6-man rotations on some of these teams, and that's how it's going to happen. But ultimately, I don't know that kind of the really good teams are going to have the ability to do it unless teams start falling out. If you start seeing a team like the Dodgers pull away, or maybe a team like the Rays pull away, then yeah, maybe. But right now, nobody's separating themselves.
Yeah, the Dodgers are a really, really interesting story right now because they have 3 guys in the top 10 of innings pitched. They have 3 guys with over 90 innings pitched. They're all set to get close to 200 innings in Bauer, Kershaw, and Buehler. You brought up Sandy Alcantara. He leads the league in innings pitched, 101 innings.
He's had 2 straight starts that are 8 innings plus, or at least 8 innings.
And also the Marlins are in last place. So it's like, I mean, are they going to keep rolling them out come August if they're not in the race at all?
I think these are very real, questions that you should not dismiss. Not that they're absolutes, but these are things to keep in the old noggin here as we move into July. That's all I'm saying. And if you're making trades and making moves, and you're in leagues that are allowed trades, you need to consider the options of what's going to get me there at the end. If it's Roto, where you can play until the very last day of the season, who's going to be there for you at the very end?
I think the biggest concern is in head-to-head leagues, where this could, you could find out your top pitcher is being shut down early for the season because he reached a certain limit. And there will be leagues won and lost because your ace, let's say it is Sandy Alcantara, or Pablo Lopez, all of a sudden the playoffs come around and the Marlins go, yeah, he's pitched enough. We don't want him to blow out his arm. We're not competitive.
Trevor Rogers. Yeah,
Trevor Rogers is another guy. So I think, in Roto League, at least you've banked all those stats. And then if someone gets shut down, you can move on and try to bank some more. But in a head-to-head league, there's nothing worse than crushing your league in a head-to-head league all season long and then at the end losing. I played in a head-to-head league for years where I think I was in it for 7 years. I was the number one team entering the playoffs every year, and I never won the league.
Deary, does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah, every year.
Yeah, me and Jerry totally. It's those 2 weeks, man.
2 weeks.
Yeah, it's all that matters. Those 2 weeks. So Justin, how do you prepare yourself to pivot, specifically in like a head-to-head league when late August comes around? Are you going after guys like Alex Cobb or Caleb Smith, guys that have been injured and don't have a ton of innings, and maybe they're completely healthy come August? How do you pivot to prepare for possible innings, drawback here at the end of the season going into the playoffs?
I mean, I don't know that there's much you can do to prepare unless you're a team that is already like if you're in first place and you're looking now at I'm going to be in a playoff situation, right? Like you've moved from I need to dominate my regular season to okay, I can start preparing. Then you can start looking at maybe stashing some guys that might be up late, either prospects or maybe some of these TJ returnee guys that are sitting out on wires because injuries, are a big thing. But I mean, it's going to be so. I don't think we're going to know. Like I said, I think this is going to. I think some of the names are going to come as a complete surprise, right? And some are going to be like, oh yeah, no, we probably could have seen that one coming. But I think it's such a hard thing. It's one of the things I've talked about all throughout this, kind of preseason this year and last year was, coming into 2020, we had never had a season that was 60 games, right? And so the people who are telling you, oh, this is the way you have to approach it, this is how you have to do it, we're lying to people because we had no idea. There was no historical basis for it. And the same thing's happening in 2021, in which we had no historical basis from going from a 60-game season to a 162-game season. And so a lot of it's a crapshoot. And, a lot of the things that we're seeing with spin rates and people freaking out and posting spin rates every day, we don't know what any of it means. We can
Panic of 2021.
And so for me, I told people, I'm ignoring it until we have enough data to understand it. And then once we have enough data in a few weeks to understand the spin rate stuff, then I'll really start making plans in terms of strategy. But the last thing you want to do is trade away a Sandy Alcantara or a Pablo Lopez, and then that guy beats you in the playoffs with him, So I think you just hope for the best and and don't freak out.
Beautiful. Well said. My home league is a head-to-head league, 14-team league. Shout out to you guys. Bless you, boys. And I have no chance of winning it. So it's
really what happened?
Yeah, I held on to guys way too long that I thought would have big ears that didn't. Nick Solak, Nick Senzel, a couple of guys that I stuck.
Kenta Maeda, not Corbin Burns.
Yeah, we've covered this. Okay, that.
I just wanted to bring it up again.
No, you're right. I destroyed the franchise. I'm like Randy Smith of the 2002 Tigers or Jeff Burdich of the Rockies. I destroyed my own franchise in that league because I didn't keep Shohei Ohtani the hitter. I didn't keep Corbin Burns, and that's it. Those are devastating moves. I kept Matt Chapman. What was I thinking? I hate Matt Chapman. I don't know how I found myself in this situation. It defies logic because I just... so dumb. Anyways, people don't care about my problems, but I do like to hear what Justin has to say about stuff. That's why he's on the Hey, it's Rico Pallazzo Fantasy Baseball podcast, presented by rotofanatic.com. So as that clock keeps on ticking, just think about innings pitch limitations. And in head-to-head leagues, really fascinating stuff when those playoffs come up. Real quick here, we got Return of the Mac. We got some music underneath in the podcast version. On YouTube, we're dancing to nothing. Return of the Mac. Do you remember the song, Justin, when you were younger? Return of the Mac.
I
used to jam out?
Vaguely do.
Classic.
As we learned on my last episode that I was on with you guys, I'm not really a music dude.
It's very odd to me, Deary. It seems like he would be a music dude. It really does, doesn't it?
How do you know if someone's a music dude or not? I mean, it's like the greatest mystery when you go up to somebody, you're like, oh, I think you're into music. What do you listen to? I listen to everything. It's like the worst statement anyone could ever make. I listen to everything. At least Justin's honest is like, I'm not a big music dude.
I really don't listen to much. I listen to podcasts. I listen to, it's the Rico Pallazzo podcast. That's all I listen to.
Oh, that's so sweet. We shout out our own podcast. A couple of comments here in the live stream, which you guys can all participate in. Brian K. Rajman says, Akil Badu was left for dead after 3 hot weeks. He might be worthy of a song again. Yes, you can check out on our YouTube channel here under the songs playlist. I have an Akil Badu song, parody song, which is a tribute to Akil Badu, based on the Police's Which one is it? Do 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 da da da. Is that the actual title? Do 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 da da da.
Yeah, I got the record back here somewhere. I can look.
I think that's the actual title. Yeah. Yes. I said go Bucks. I don't know if the Bucks won or lost. It was a 1-point game here with a couple seconds left. So Deary can fill us in on that. So true, Justin. I have no idea what that's in reference to, but I'm sure it was something smart that Justin Mason said. Derek Schaefer says, this is why I never draft Dodgers pitchers. Well, a guy like Gonsolin right now might actually be of use because he hasn't pitched much this year. So even if he gets 80 innings this year, that could take you into maybe, August for sure, right? So, think about that. Don't assume that a staff is just not for you regardless. Brock the Sponsor says, great stuff, guys. Some tough questions to start pondering. That's why we do this. That's what we want to hear. And Patrick Ryan says, I care. Thank you, Patrick. So glad that somebody out there cares, for the love of Christ. Some players that are on the mend. Danny Duffy came back for the Royals. Kyle Tucker's back for the Astros. Brandon Nimmo is close to his return. Michael Conforto, like Deary said, is going to be back in business here.
He came back tonight.
He came back tonight, and he dominated, I'm sure.
I think he had 2 hits, actually.
Yay! Of course, Wander Franco got called up. Justin, is there anybody else that you're looking forward to who could be called up? Because we've passed the Super 2 deadline, or what will be the Super 2 deadline, and then right now, guys that come to mind who are not up that maybe could be up, or a guy like CJ Abrams, maybe. Is there anybody else that you think of in terms of like the top echelon of prospects who could be coming up soon, or you would like to see come up soon?
Yeah, I don't think CJ Abrams is coming up this year. I'd be really surprised. Like, I don't know where they would play him. San Diego's got a pretty stacked team, and I don't think they're going to start his clock just to sit on the bench. I think they want him to play every day. A guy like Bobby Witt could make an appearance at some point, but the Royals have kind of started to fall out of it, so he may not until later in the year. Joe Adele could come up at some point. He's still striking out like 75% of the time, but he's hitting for a lot of power. He's got a decent average. I mean, he's a really interesting prospect if he can figure out how to hit breaking stuff and not swing and miss at everything.
Someone just got hurt for them, wasn't it? I think. Oh, Upton, Justin Upton.
Upton left with a back strain.
So maybe.
Yeah, that may be the opening for him. A guy like Vidal Brujan and Luke Voigt just hit a walk-off home run. Oh, no, he didn't. I thought he was gone.
No, Bob Saget.
Pop up.
It was a walk-off sack fly.
Cool. How exciting. That's what baseball's all about.
Vidal Brujan is an interesting guy. I thought he'd be up before Wander Franco.
I said that too.
Because he was on the 40-man and Franco wasn't. Brujan may end up being the better fantasy player in the long run. He has blazing speed, a really, really good hit tool, walks, especially in this day and age where stolen bases are a real asset that people have to chase. I think he could end up being the better fantasy player long term, and maybe even this year. So if he comes up, the question is, where do they play him? I think there's a chance that maybe Wander Franco plays some more third as well as shortstop, and then Brujan turns into kind of a super utility guy, playing second, the outfield, maybe a little bit of short third. But he's a guy that I think has the most amount of impact potential that's still in the minors and could be up relatively soon.
I love Brujan. You were speaking my language. I really thought he would come up first, and he could be the better fantasy player. Deary, who do you like better, Vidal Brujan or Wander Franco?
I mean, Wander Franco right now. I mean, he's been the hot name, but I'd love to see Brujan come up. But I don't know if he's going to play. Question I'll throw to you guys: are we going to see the top prospect for the Orioles, Adley Rutschman, at any point this season? He's killing it right now in Double-A.
I know.
September.
Okay.
He could. So what is this rule? I'll admit when I don't know everything. So is there a rule that came apart or came on the scene over the last year with COVID where if you go to Double-A, then you have to go to Triple-A, or you have to spend a certain amount of time at Triple-A? Has anyone heard about this, or am I crazy?
I don't believe I've not heard this.
Did Twitter totally lie to me?
Maybe Twitter lies to you on a regular basis. I have not heard that rule. That'd be an interesting rule.
The Twitter guy's a dick.
I can't imagine that's a rule because one of the the ability to cheat minor leaguers out of their service time is one of the things that owners love and really relish. And so I can't imagine they would institute any sort of rules that would put any sort of roadblocks or impediments into that.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. So I don't want to spread bogus information. But at any rate, Rutschman could jump from Bowie, which is right next door to Baltimore, and just jump up to Camden Yards anytime. That'd be really nice. I'd love to see that bat. He won't, but
he'll come. Maybe they'll reward him with a call up in September, when the service time isn't affected. So, but I doubt he's up before then.
Spencer Torkelson, he's moving quicker too. He's making progress, but I still don't think you'll see him this year. Do you, Deary?
No, I think we see him next year. I think we probably see him June of next year.
Nate Pearson, I was actually excited was going to come back up, but then he got another issue happen. He's on the IL for the 7-day IL. I think it was a concussion, but either way, he's injured again, so he's not going to be coming up. And Alek Manoah is really speeding past him on the Blue Jays in terms of the prospect that's giving them what they need right now, which is very unfortunate. Here's one. Good call, guys. This is what I wanted to hear. Joe Gentile says, I believe I heard James Anderson talk about how the COVID rules are different between AA and AAA. Thank you. I knew it was COVID related. I just wanted to make sure. So that's all I needed to know. Thank you very much, Joe. Derek Schaefer says, how about Jarren Duran of the Boston Red Sox? That would be fun. I think a lot of us would like to see that, but what about Jeter Downs? Wouldn't Jeter Downs come up first?
I think they both could come up at some point. I'm a little surprised they haven't come up yet, considering the Red Sox have been surprisingly decent up until, a little bit of a cold stretch here recently. But, I'm a little surprised that neither of them have come up. Tristan Casas is another one that could be up at some point as well. It's really hard to kind of tell what the Red Sox are doing. I think they're kind of waiting and seeing as the trade deadline comes to see if they're going to be competitive in the division. I think that maybe they thought that this was kind of a bridge year towards being competitive next season. And so why start the service clock on these guys? But, if they continue to be competitive towards the All-Star break, you may see these guys come up and have a bigger role.
I don't know that they thought that. Chaim Bloom, the GM, I don't know if he felt that way or if Alex Cora felt differently. I think the Red Sox may have thought they were better than people expected them to be, especially with some of the starting pitching signings they made, which were just innings eaters that were not very hopeful of providing any type of return, like Garrett Richards, Martin Perez. So I think I see what you're saying, but I don't know if I agree with that. Deary, what do you think? Is there anybody else out there that you would love to see that's going to come up soon?
No, going back to Boston. Boston's going to be really interesting because if they're in the race here, they're going to be looking for bullpen help in pitching, and they have these great prospects. But are they going to want to part with these prospects in a year just so they can compete this year and go and get a guy who might be on an expiring contract? No, they probably want to keep these hitters around that are going to be really, really special. We talked about Duran and Jeter Downs. Both have been really good in the minors. I think they probably wait out another year for these guys to come up. Besides that, I don't know in terms of any other impact player coming up here in the next month or so.
Okay. Yes, is this live? Ryan K, 886-1336B. This is live. I'm responding to you in real time. That's Justin Mason down there. That's Christopher Deary up there. Breaking news, Adolis Garcia, 2 taters tonight. Son of a bitch, says Brian K. Rodman. Sorry, Brian. Yeah, that could still happen, and it literally did happen, so that's cool. Sick, yeah, very sick. Sick means good, right? Like what bad means cool in the 80s. All right, there it is. So we gave you guys some people to talk about, some people who are on the mend. Good times are here. It's the Hey, it's Rico Palazzo Fantasy Baseball Podcast presented by RotoFanatic.com. Check out Phil Goyette's Climbing the Rookie Ladder. It's good stuff. Tomorrow, Deary, I haven't even told you this, because you're not going to be available Friday. So we're going to do a show tomorrow, and I hope you can make it. Because Paul Mamino and Crosby Spencer from RotoFanatic will be on tomorrow night's show. 2 very smart fellows who know a lot about stuff. So look for that tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Paul Mamino. Follow
perfect.
P. Mamino Fantasy. Yeah.
10 o'clock? Perfect. I got to go shopping for this wedding I'm going to on Saturday. I got too fat, and I don't fit in any of my suits.
I don't know what that's about at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Danielle's here. Hi, Mrs. Salinger in the house. About time. We were looking for you. I knew she'd make it in eventually. All right. Well, we're going to keep this simple, but we do call it Enrico's Inquisition. Would you prefer to deal with a manipulative person or a callous person?
Wow, this is deep into my psyche.
Alan Trammell or Lou Whitaker?
Oh, I knew you were going to hit me with that.
The 1988 Dodgers or the 2020 Dodgers?
Oh, the 1988, by far. It was the happiest moment of my sports life. That was my first gut moment.
Nelly, get ready for some doozies, because it's time for everybody's favorite part of the show, Enrico's Inquisition.
Hey, now Matt Williams here. Everybody's here. Everyone's popping in tonight. Man, Justin Mason, you're a big hit around here. That's right. Justin Mason, FWFB on Twitter if you want to follow him and get him to 20,000 followers. We're working to that cause right now. We're not going to quit on it. We're taking callers for these pendant keychains. All right, Justin, some wild shit. Deary, too. Deary, some weird shit has happened recently. First off, I really want to talk about did you guys see the Dan Vogelbach play with the Diamondbacks last night?
No. I didn't. I know he got hurt, but I hadn't seen the actual play.
Oh, shit. You got to be shitting me. That's so cool. So I'm going to show it to you right here on the screen. I'm going to pull it up because Dan Vogelbach is a large, healthy man. He runs the bases pretty well for a guy with a lot of power and size. And something happened last night, which I'm going to share with you right now against the Diamondbacks. Or was it this afternoon? Either way, it happened against the Diamondbacks in their last game. I thought it was pretty bizarre. So I want to get you guys' feedback on this. There we go. Oh, my God. We're in the multiverse.
Holy shit.
Okay, so here we go. This is a base hit by someone.
He's on second, going to third, right?
Oh, I did see this. Yes,
no.
I did see it. Yeah.
What do you do? Roll an ankle?
I think he
looks like a hammy.
He hurt his knee. I don't think they've said exactly what he did to his knee, but I did. Danielle, my wife, showed me this earlier today, and somehow Stefan Crichton could not figure out that he should throw home as the guy who's 300 pounds limps there very slowly.
I was just going to say, did they just give him a free pass because they felt bad?
Well, it may be the end of Stefan Crichton's career because they designated him for assignment today.
They did. Yeah, he's bye-bye.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah, your wife says it's ridiculous. It really is. My question is, they felt bad for him. It would be unfair to throw him out because he couldn't run. Is there a bro code or some type of weird unwritten rule that says, well, he would have been safe, but he came up really lame? I mean, Brandon Belt got thrown out today when he came up lame running home. So what the fuck's going on here?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Real life story. My wife was once running home in our slow pitch softball game from third base, got beamed in the back of the head with the ball, got a massive concussion, was stumbling around like a zombie, and her brother screamed, "Touch the plate! Touch the plate!" No, you get the person out, you try to score, you do whatever you have to do to win the game.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is the major leagues. This isn't like in 8th grade where you let the water boy come out and try to make a basket at the end of the game and everybody just watches so he can feel good and everybody's all happy. This is the major leagues. You can't just let Vogelbach stumble home like that.
All right, and then last night's Bozo Fest at Citizens Bank Park, where Glass Joe Girardi went head-to-head with Mad Max, and I did a dumb video that I posted today.
You play it?
Well, we can't hear the audio. Could you guys hear the audio when I played the video? Because I don't I don't figure that out yet. So
it is a great video.
You got to have the audio, right? So, but anyways, it's just Joe Girardi and Max Scherzer going head-to-head in a Mike Tyson's Punch-Out type thing. But the bottom line here is Joe Girardi being kind of a dick, Deary. Do you think he's being a dick in this situation? Or, I mean, 3 inspections he calls for. And now Clayton Kershaw says, hey, there should be a penalty for managers who call for bogus inspections.
I'm already sick of it. I'm already sick of these inspections, and there's going to be managers that are going to be throwing these out there just to fuck with pitchers, so they can have these just mental breakdowns. I mean, that certainly got to Scherzer last night, and you posted a great video. But it's so annoying. They're just doing these checks, 3 checks last night. These guys are taking their belts off. Some guys are dropping their pants. It's certainly pissing the pitchers off. It's so ridiculous.
Romo almost got nude. Sergio Romo almost got nude. And today, Shohei Ohtani had a laugh with the umps. He was very congeal. I will say that.
It's like, hey, we want to speed up the game, but no, we're gonna do these inspections. Take all your clothes off, and I'm just waiting for Pallazzo to come in and shake you down.
Yeah. Oh my God. There's something in there. Good call, dearie. That's a great idea. The fucking vacuum and oh wow! I can't believe I didn't think of that. Our show was tailor made for this situation.
Exactly.
We weren't even using that scene.
This was predicted 32 years ago when Naked Gun came out.
Yeah, we're idiots. Justin, we haven't had a chance to talk. Like I said, that's why we wanted to have you on. What's up? What's your view, and how do you take in this whole Gunka-palooza chaos that has been going on since Manfred and his crew decided to crack down in the middle of a season?
Yeah, it's the middle of the season part that bothers me the most because, it was clear that the players, pitchers, have taken this too far. This has been something that's been allowed throughout the entire history of baseball, and they have taken it too far, and now baseball needs to crack down at least a little bit. But in true MLB and Rob Manfred form, we're going to fix a problem in the worst possible way. So we're going to do this mid-season. We're going to not give anybody a chance to prepare. We're going to set 10-day suspensions in which the player still gets paid, but the team can't replace them on the roster. A lot of it just doesn't make sense. I agree that they should probably do something, but what they should have done was sat down with the players' union and said, let's come together and come up with a substance that makes sense, whether it's, sunblock and rosin or, I don't know, dragon spit. Who the hell knows? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but
dragon spit. Wow.
Like the idea
Harry
that
Potter?
Yeah, I don't know. The idea that this was a good idea, that they should change things mid-season. If your fantasy commissioner changed things mid-season, you would have people quitting your league. Yet Major League Baseball thinks this is a good idea. It's absolutely atrocious. I feel worst for Tyler Glass now, who believes he got hurt because of this, and I tend to kind of agree with him that it probably was due to having to learn how to pitch all of a sudden without stuff. It's just a bummer. Like I said, I do agree they should do something, but the way they're doing it is ridiculous. And for me, in just about anything, it's about the process rather than the end result. They're getting the end result they want, and process be damned.
That's exactly what we said here, man. Glasnow really did get affected by this, and it's a damn shame. And fantasy managers and commissioners know this better than anything. You don't change rules during a fantasy season. This is a real league that the fantasy is based off of. Do you understand how insane that is? Anyone? People do. I hope they do. I know you guys do.
The smart people do.
It's going to make fantasy analysis for next year just so frustrating, because you know how many guys we're going to be like, oh, look how he dropped off in the second half.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, and how much is it going to be real? Because that this is going to change again in the offseason, right? As long as we don't have an actual strike or lockout, like, they're going to come together and they're going to go, hey, we need to figure out a substance, and they're going to have something for next year, and everything's going to change again. It's going to be frustrating for the third season in a row where we don't really know what to expect.
There's a reckoning coming, so who the fuck knows what's going to happen, but things are out of control, and I see it. I see it so clearly. There is a reckoning, and something's going to give here. Lockout, strike, whatever it is. Me and Deary have talked about it on the show a lot. We continue to believe that there is a massive... The nothing, remember the never-ending story? The nothing is rolling in, and somebody's going to come in and try to stop it, but not before some major shit goes down. There's going to be some major shit that happens because it needs to happen, because this is the kind of league we currently have, where a commissioner decides to change the rules during a season, and we thought it was going to be hard to judge off a 60-game season. This is my first full year of analysis was coming off the 2020 Bozo season, and now I thought things would get easier going after it, but what you just said makes it much more likely that it's going to be even more complicated to know what's going on with pitchers in 2022, which is also going to trickle down to hitters, because you don't know what the situation is with the pitchers. Right, Deary?
Yeah, your job just continues to keep getting harder and harder, Mike, as a fantasy analyst. Yeah, treat speak for you.
Good Lord, what a fucking nightmare. Some of the comments here, your wife saying, I enjoy the guys dropping their pants. Hey, oh, I bet you do, Panama Red. Watching the umps feeling Scherzer's head seemed a little violating. Yeah, that was, I felt bad for Max. And Max is kind of a dick, I'll be honest. In fact, I know people here who have met him locally when he was a Tiger. He's kind of a red ass, he's a tough dude, which he doesn't really hide, I guess.
Yeah.
Your wife also says they should have at least been given the offseason to figure out how to pitch without anything. Agreed.
Yep. Perfect.
She also worries about any injuries, being hit by a pitch, which I thought last night Alec Boehm was kind of thrown at close. I don't know if it was intentional or if he lost the grip from Scherzer. We'll never know that for sure. It's always going to be a mystery. And she says, enjoying the cussing too. Well, fucking hey, you know how we do it here. I wanted to show this scene real quick. This is the this is the one Deary just alluded to. It's so funny. If for some reason you guys have never seen this in the Naked Gun, this is a treat. And this is exactly what's going on right now. So here it is. This is Dave Spiewak, and Frank Drebin comes out to the mound to analyze the ball. He finds some sandpaper behind his back. That's cool. And what is that?
It's an electric sander.
Yeah.
Electric.
There we go. What's in there?
He takes his under his hat.
A whole thing of Vaseline.
A whole tub of Vaseline under his hat, and he's good to go. All right.
You're good. We'll give that right back to you.
Oh, that's so funny. That is exactly what's happening, and there's more comedy involved with that. Good call, Deary. We're in Enrico's Inquisition here with Justin Mason following MJ Govier, C. Deary 1999, and Justin Mason, FWFB. Justin, one thing not related to baseball that we'd like to discuss is, mental health. And, we talk mental health, and I know you and I have had great conversations about that, and it's a part of your life that's very important to you. And I think with the COVID ending, there's a lot of people who were kind of locked up on their own. And now that we're starting to get back out in society, people are starting to mingle and try to live life again. But there could be a lot of lingering leftovers that people might not be aware of. More anxiety and not sure why they're feeling that way. I just wanted to take that moment here because on this show, we've always tried to be very honest about it. Me and Deary are very proud of that on the show. And it's important. I'm sure it's a fantasy baseball show, and it's one of the dumbest shows you'll ever hear or watch, which is totally cool. But at the same time, we have a heart, we have a soul. We try to focus on what really matters. And I'm wondering, how are you feeling? COVID's over now. So what's your state of mind, and how's your family doing? And how are you guys looking ahead now that things are starting to be somewhat normal?
Well, they're not normal for us yet. We're still being very, very safe. We have a child who is high risk, and because of that, we aren't taking very many chances. We're going on our first vacation next month with my family, and we're just nervous about that. Going with people that we should be able to trust. I think until we reach a vaccination rate in this country that will give us herd immunity, I think there's going to be things to be scared about. And I think that people who have anxieties about that, it's completely normal. I think if you don't have anxiety about it, good for you, but don't hurt or don't go after the people who do. And I think there will be people, we've already seen it. There was a great study that came out recently about people who are afraid to drive. That 60% of the people in this country are afraid to drive because they've gone so long without having to drive. And they're actually expecting a lot more car accidents on the road because people have forgotten how to drive. And if my area is any indication, that is true because people don't know how to fucking drive. So I think there are going to be a lot of things that are different about the way we live life. I think we're going to see a lot more Zoom meetups and virtual meetups. And I think that will continue to be a thing. I think that some people are missing the human connection and social interactions that were kind of lost during the pandemic. And so some people are going to run right out and be like, oh, I need this touch. I need this affection. I need this. And then there are going to be people who are less inclined to do that. And I think we're going to see a real kind of dichotomy and difference between those who really need that and crave that, versus the people who are like, hey, I kind of like not having to see anybody for a fucking year. And I'm kind of caught in between in that. Like, I do miss seeing people. I miss going to Tout Wars this year and going to First Pitch Arizona last year and seeing all of our friends in the industry and hanging out with people. But I'm also kind of a homebody and don't tend to really like people to begin with. So I don't know where I kind of fall in that.
So the quarantine was perfect for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think my wife once said, like, she really liked the idea of not having to go anywhere, but she wished the fucking people in her house would just leave. So
I'm sick of you fuckers.
Yeah.
See, I made an assumption there. I was forgetting about your kid and not. See, these are the little things that are going to be a part of people's lives, and we're not being aware of it. It's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's just a reminder. It's not all uniform, okay? It's not all uniform.
Well, you know, I mean, so quick story here. I work with kids, and we just started summer camp a week and a half ago, and we have a bunch of 5 and 6 year olds in camp that did not go to kindergarten, had first grade like on Zoom, and they have not been socialized at all. They haven't seen any other kids. And there are some kids having a real struggle socializing with other kids because they haven't had it in a year and a half, or some of them, the only socialization that they've ever had is with their family. So it's been really difficult for these really, younger kids that really have missed out on school and basically the social, interactions that they can have with other children. It's really terrifying to watch.
Yeah. I mean, my 2-year-old was, she doesn't understand that there's anything different, right? Like she thinks masks are part of everyday use, and she's never, like, in her mind, she's never been into something like a store, or she doesn't remember ever meeting my parents in person, because her frame of reference is the last year and a half, and she's only seen people on Zoom. And so the few times where I've taken her out into public, for anything, she thinks it's really cool to see people, but if people start to approach her, she gets very scared. Yeah. And I think that, it's going to be really interesting to see, kind of that generation, how do they recover? I also have a 10-year-old who just misses her friends, a ton. But she's also scared to go back out. She stayed and did homeschool the entire year, even though her kids went back to school in May, or her classmates went back to school in May, and her entire class got COVID, or someone in her class got COVID, and so the entire class had to quarantine for their first 2 weeks of summer break. So I think we'd like to think that this is over, but as we've seen major league players get COVID and have to stay out, I don't think it's necessarily over yet.
Wow. That's really well said. Yes, people will struggle to change, and it's not going to be easy. Remember, not everyone's on the same page as you. We're all rolling at different speeds.
And you want me to change? Fuck you!
You don't have to be that harsh about it. Chill out. I also listened to the TGFBI pod, which you've kind of turned into a meditation on what's going on in the fantasy baseball world. It's not so much about it. There's baseball talk, but it's kind of more like a get to know people show now, in a sense. And I think that's cool. And because we always love, that's what we do here. We love to try to talk things that aren't just baseball. You can all mix them together. I listened to Mike Curlin's recent appearance, and you guys were talking about the fantasy baseball community, and Mike was very honest about his fact that he had jealousy and he had envy of other people in the business, which are human emotions. So he's not alone. He's not alone at all. I'm just curious what your take is on all that now that the show's over and maybe you've had some time to think about it beyond what you said on the show, I guess.
I mean, I think the real cool thing about the TGFBI podcast and doing things the way I've been doing it for the last, year and a half or 2 years that I've been kind of doing those episodes is that, we talk about the teams and stuff, but we really talk about people, right? And I think when I was just a fan, right, when I was just a person that listened to podcasts or read work or watched videos, I always thought, I think I'd be really good friends with Paul Sporer and Jason Collette. And it turns out I am now. I think that there are some people in the industry that, I think the majority of people in the industry are really cool and really good people. And I don't think we get to see that as much, except for in little moments on Twitter or what we kind of try to show the outside world. And so I started that show in order to kind of give people an opportunity to talk about themselves. And, sometimes it's as basic as, hey, this is the kind of work I do, and sometimes it turns into something a little bit more like the episode with Mike, the episode with John, MLB Moving Average recently as well. The episode with Christopher Welsh, I highly recommend going and listening to that one if you haven't. But what Mike was talking about in terms of like professional jealousy, I think it's really, really common. I think everybody at some point when they enter this industry experiences that, whether it's a matter of, why not me, or a matter of like, how's this person getting this job and I'm not getting this job. And I think I totally think it is super, super common to feel jealous. And it's not that people are less deserving than other people. It's just we have the natural human reaction to go, I want that, right? And if I don't have that, like I want that. And I mean, I've been blessed in this industry to kind of move up the ranks maybe faster than other people. And I'm sure, actually, I know for a fact there have been people who have been jealous of me because they've behind the scenes come and told me that they were jealous of kind of where I've gotten, and not in a bad way. And I don't take it, as an offense, like, or that someone's like, being mean.
Jealousy automatically has this negative connotation for most people, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can be honest about how you feel and you want what someone has, but at the same time, you could be like, good for you. I feel happy for you.
I mean, jealousy in a lot of ways is a lot like fear. Fear is a natural human emotion, right? It's a natural thing. It's what we do with that determines the content of that emotion, right? So like, it's fine for me to be jealous of someone, right? It's totally fine. It's a natural human emotion, a natural reaction. Now, if I use that jealousy and then like attack people over it, then that's a problem. But maybe I use that emotion, that feeling of jealousy to inspire myself. And sometimes in what I told like Mike on the podcast was like, if you're wondering why someone is getting a job over you, why don't you go ask the person who got the job or the person who gave them the job and go, hey, what can I do to ensure I have a better shot at getting this job in the future? Because the worst thing they can do is not answer you, right? I mean, like, and then you're just still in the exact same position you were. But you might get someone, and most people are going to say, hey, listen, you need to do this, this, and this. Like, this is why this person was hired and you weren't. And so I think it's a matter in just, this is every aspect of life, right? It's all about your intentions, right? If your intentions are good, it doesn't matter, if you're jealous or if you're in fear. You don't let those things control how you're going to behave. You use them as fuel for something else.
Yeah.
It's like not getting enough playing time on your basketball team. And the worst thing to do is sit there and bitch and complain. And you're not going to get any playing time if you do that. But if, you made a great point, Justin, go ahead and ask those people, what can I do to be better, to get those better opportunities? But it's got to be really hard within, any type of fantasy world because the market is so saturated now. There's so many podcasts out there. There's so many different writers. So, in a way, you almost got to be a little realistic about it. But why not start your own thing? I mean, Mike's done it.
I mean, I think, there's a lot of different paths. And, one of the things I told Mike, I can't remember who was on the podcast or off air, is, hey, come up with a goals list. What do you really want? Like what, and then how am I going to get to that goal? It's, it's kind of a two-step process. Identify what the actual goal is and then figure out what the plan to that goal is. I mean, one of the things that I did kind of early on when I decided to make this more than just like a little hobby that I did with my friends, was I went, okay, what is the ultimate goal for me? And like, how can I achieve those goals? And I did that, I made friends within the industry. I started TGFBI. I worked really, really, really hard. And it is a saturated market, and much more saturated than when I came in 6 years ago, and even more saturated. It's become even more saturated in the last few years,
especially with COVID.
Especially with COVID, and Mike talked about that. That being said, every time an industry gets saturated, that's good for the industry. So, like the idea that, like, oh, there's so many people, your voice can't be heard. No, it just means that the people who are good and the people who work hard will be rewarded, and the people who aren't good or aren't working hard or trying to get better will eventually fade away. There are plenty of people, because I mean, these things come in waves, and there were a ton of people who came in my wave. Not all of them are still here.
Yeah. A lot of them. You've talked about that before.
A lot of them have decided to go do other podcasts, outside of the sports realm, or have decided to stop doing fantasy analysis. And that's just part of, any business, right? Like the people who are dedicated, the people, even if you're not good, like I was not good at this when I started. Absolutely.
You always say that.
I was absolutely atrocious. I still don't think I'm very good, but like I was absolutely atrocious. I wish I still had the audio from my first few episodes of Friends with Fantasy Benefits, because they were bad. That being said,
it's got to exist somewhere. We got to find it.
I'm sure it does exist somewhere, and I will cry when they get released. But I worked really, really hard to get better, and because I had a passion for this, and because I had a wife who was willing to give me the space and the ability to do it, and really said, "Hey, stop being a knucklehead if this is something that's important to you, and really give it a go." Mm-hmm. I got better. And because I got better, I worked my way up the ranks at Fangraphs, and I put myself in really good positions to then be rewarded later, and they have. And I think Mike brought up some really interesting points and said a lot of things that a lot of people who are newer in the industry think, or people who've been in the industry for a while have felt at some point, or maybe still feel it at some point. But I also think that, he's one of those guys like you guys that will be rewarded and already have been rewarded with, pretty nice platforms and success in the industry, because you guys work hard. And I think that's what it comes down to.
We work hard, don't we, dearie?
Every day, baby.
Oh, beautiful. I'll tell you one thing. To be envious and jealous is natural. But like Justin said, how you respond to those feelings are what makes or breaks those feelings. The feelings are natural, but the actions not necessarily have to follow suit. That's important. And we love doing the show. I also think there's a lot of slurpage about the community. Sometimes I feel like people are just so into...
What is slurpage?
It's what Wilbon says all the time on PTI. Basically, it's his nice little way of saying blowjob, sucking on dongs. That's what he means, okay. Slurpage. Slurping Tom Brady's dick. That's what everybody's doing all the time. But he has to say slurpage, which, surprisingly enough, nobody's calling out at ESPN that it's a blowjob reference. At any point, the community
is that a bad thing?
That the community, we talk about the community?
Or no, the slurpage, because I think that has a bad connotation.
Yeah, I know. That's what I've always said too. Like, dude, suck my dick. I'm like, well, I don't want to personally, but that's not a bad thing. If somebody else wants to suck your dick, like, when we were young, as call each other a cocksucker was a bad thing, but it's not.
Dude, suck my dick. Like, yeah, that might be nice.
Yeah, I mean, it has homophobic origins. That's what I think you're getting at. And I totally agree with that. You're right, and I've thought about that many times. So I like you. That's why I like you. You're on our show for a reason, Justin. But like this community and the people that don't know, the people who are just watching and listening, and they're here for fantasy baseball content. They don't necessarily give a shit about this community and what's going on, and that's fine. You don't have to. But Justin's put a lot of work into it, and he cares a lot about it. So that makes sense that he would be so interested in it. I think there's a fine line for me personally. I know Deary is probably even less than me, but like I love the people I've met and connected with, and I do this to connect and learn and grow and get more educated about life overall and expand my understanding of people. But there's got to be a fine line between like just getting too deep in the weeds on some of this shit and taking a step back and be like, wow, this is just a small part of existence. And I'm not saying that's you at all. It's just a general announcement or kind of a reminder for those of us out there who get obsessed about, I didn't get that opportunity. And I've had those feelings. I'm like, shit, I could do that better than he could. Fuck that guy. I haven't say the fuck that guy part, but I certainly felt I was talented enough to do what someone else does. It's not about talent. It's about what Justin said. It's about work. It's about grinding. And eventually you will hopefully get the opportunities, but you have to make them happen. One thing I've learned about my life is I sat on the sidelines for most of it and I never got anywhere. Started doing a podcast with Deary, and then all of a sudden, now we're here today.
I think that is a really good point that you just made, because I can't tell you how many times I've heard people complain about, oh, this person got this job. And then you ask that person who's complaining, well, did you apply? And they're like, no. Well, like, I mean,
you just thought someone was going to be running down the street chasing you down, here's your offer, here's your job offer.
I think there are some people who think that these offers are just handed out like candy to the people that other people like or something. And
very naive.
And I'm sure that does happen. It actually, I know for a fact that does happen.
It does. Yeah.
For sure. When I was approached to write at FanGraphs, I didn't apply because I never would have applied at FanGraphs. I didn't think I was worthy of working at FanGraphs. And Paul came to me and said, "Hey, listen, I want to bring you on." And I told him, "No, I'm not worthy of FanGraphs." And he said, "Listen, I'm not bringing you on to be Jeff Zimmerman or Alex Chamberlain. I'm bringing you on to be Justin Mason." And that's what I'm trying to bring. And I was like, okay. But I think there are a lot of people who think that's how every person gets hired at a place, right? No, most people are looking, going to places and going, "Hey, you need a writer? Or here's my resume. Here's a writing sample. Here's a podcast sample. Do you need someone?" And that's how they get jobs. There's nothing more annoying than you're seeing someone on Twitter complain about this person got hired at this place, and ultimately they're like, and you're like, well, what did they tell you when you applied? And you're like, well, I didn't apply. Well, then why the fuck are you complaining?
That's pretty basic, yeah. Come on. I mean, what the hell's going on here? That's what I want to know.
If you want something, go for it. The worst they can do is say no.
Are you insane?
That's the point. We just do now. All I do is do. I didn't just used to do. Now I just do. Whatever's next. You want me him? You want to have me on? Great. Can I offer this to you? Sure. Great. Cool. Hey, you want to come on our podcast? Yes. Always say yes. Next thing you know, you're on the RotoWire podcast, or you get to meet other people like that. Because the longer you keep yourself involved, like, you don't have to be a legend. You just have to be consistent, dedicated, reasonable too. Be reasonable. Don't be a dick. You can be kind of a dick, actually. Some people do very well with that kind of shtick if you want to. But in the heart of you,
not doing that.
No.
Yeah, at the heart, you got to keep it real. So.
That's not what we do here.
I'll tell you, like, the way I got on Sleeper and the Bust was I went to Paul and Eno when it was Paul and Eno, and I said, "Hey, you guys, your audio kind of sucks sometimes. Let me produce it for you, and I'll fix the audio problems." And that's how I became the producer. I didn't speak on the podcast. I sat back behind the quote unquote glass, and I produced it for him for free for about a year. And then Eno got hired at The Athletic, and I was the next man up. Like, I put this is one of the things I talk about. I put myself in a position to, move up within an industry. And so, like, if you are finding yourself stagnant, and this works in every industry, like, figure out where there is a problem that needs to be fixed and be the person that fixes the problem.
Yeah, I think people get worried they're going to step on toes, or they're being too forward, and that kind of stuff will just drive you crazy inside. If you want something, this is all life, all things you want to do in your life. If you have a passion within you and an inspiration to really make it happen, get out there and do it. It sounds so simple. Nike Just Do It ad campaign is like 30 years old, but it worked because it's true. Just do it. Now, it's not a meritocracy necessarily either, so don't be prepared to, hey, I did my time, I paid my debt, now I deserve to have another opportunity. Justin has made all of his opportunities. He has. We've had him on the show before. Go back and listen to the old audio. He's always said like he says with Tout Wars and what you did with Sleeper and the Bust. And then you put yourself in position with people who are also talented, maybe even more talented than he is. I'm not going to say who is or isn't. I don't think that's the case.
There's
but
plenty of more talented people that are probably more deserving of my profile than me. Absolutely. But like one of the things I've been very good at is networking. And part of my brand is that I help other people. And you know what happens when you help other people and you're good to other people? They help you. And that, I mean, I wouldn't be where I'm at without Paul Sporer, without Laura, dearly departed Laura Michaels, without Howard Bender, without Eno Saris. I mean, there's a lot of people in the industry that helped me, but I put myself in those positions to get help. And I've helped a lot of people. And, those people, have come back and helped me. And so I think it's, as much as, like the slurpage factor in the industry, I think may be sickening to some people. Like if you want to, be known as a good person, you have to do good things. And if you are a good person that does good things, often people will treat you that way. Not everybody. There's been people who have been huge dicks to me, right? I've been a dick to other people. But ultimately, I try to be a good person and hope that comes back to me, and it has.
Excellent sermon, Justin.
Well said, Justin. Well said, my friend. Shout out to Mike Curlin for being on that show. Mike Curlin's always been good to us. He was the first guest ever on the show. Mike, I know this. Mike prides himself on being like the first guy to find people and boost them up. And that's not a bad thing to be like good at or want to do. That's a good thing. So thank you, Mike Curlin, for being one of those guys. We were on his network, the Bases Loaded network originally. And these things come and go and shifts and waves. And also, we are three white guys, and there's a whole other story here about, opportunities for all kinds of people, and inclusivity, which is always a big issue in this community, and it will continue to be. Well, I'm aware of it. I know Deary's aware of it, and I certainly know Justin's aware of it. So at least with these three white guys, we feel like we're part of the solution, but maybe we're not. I don't know. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I can only speak for me, and I know that, hey, anybody wants to come on the show, whatever your desires, whatever you look like, you're all welcome on the show anytime.
Yeah, and I've tried to, at the beginning of this season, I went through, actually made a whole spreadsheet of every single guest I'd had on each one of my three shows over the course of the last 6 years. And what I noticed was not only was it a lot of the same people coming back and back and back, it was a lot of white dudes coming back and back and back. And so I went out of my way this year to make sure that there was better representation from women, from people of color, on my shows this year, because I think it's important to kind of, show like how good a lot of people are in this industry, women, men, and people of all, races and creeds. And I think it's been an added benefit to me and my show because I'm getting new good voices on the show, and it's been really, really fantastic.
Absolutely. Agree with all that. Well said, Justin Mason. That's it. That's Enrico's Inquisition. Really, we're just kind of following up on the show that he did with Mike and John and carrying that conversation, which will continue to go on and on and on. Right now, there's a chat or a DM on Twitter where people are talking about the community and things that are cool about it, things that suck about it, things that could be better about it, and then a fantasy baseball comment mixed in here and there. It's always interesting. And Deary, it's pretty wild to think where we are right now, which is we're not big time or anything at all, but the production we have and the live stream and the people we know, like Justin and all the guests we've had on.
It's so funny to think about, like when we started. I still remember when Mike was on our first pod. Like he was the first guest, and I wasn't there that night, but I remember you telling me, you're like, "Oh, we're gonna have a guest." I'm like, "We have guests on these things? What is this? I have no idea what's going on." I mean, I wasn't a big fantasy podcast listener. I'd listened to a ton of other podcasts. I'm like, oh, wait, this actually makes a lot of sense. I listen to a ton of other podcasts and they have guests on. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're just doing this. And then since January 2021, we did like 50 episodes. We're doing like 4 to 5 a week where we had a new guest on every week. And that's all Mike's accomplishment by reaching out to everybody and getting people involved and having
I just put a calendar
all the different voices that we had on. But yeah, we had a lot of white dudes on our pod.
Well, we did the best we could to mix everybody. We started with Chris Towers on January 7th, and then we went apeshit. You know, we had everybody we could possibly think of that who would agree to come on, from Ryan Bloomfield to Sarah Sanchez to Justin to Max Freeze to Shelly Veristrate. We got as many people as we could. Carlos Marcano.
And then the season started, and we're like, oh shit! Now what do we do? We're like,
yeah,
oh, okay.
And they fucked with our analysis.
No more predictions.
Yeah, no more predictions. And we had so many people's input that it fucked up both of our analysis. Like we had too many opinions in our head. It was like, oh shit. I
got talked off a lot of guys that I shouldn't have. I got talked into a lot of guys, which was really great. But we had so many differing opinions coming on. It was like total like memory overload.
It's a good thing in the end because it'll teach us, or at least it taught me. I know I've said this to Deary many times recently, that I will stick to my opinion. You know, what I found, what I've discovered, what my experiential knowledge tells me. I got to stick to it. Great to have the input from others who know what they're talking about, but in the end, trust my gut. I'd rather go down with my gut than someone else's gut. And that's it. All right, so there it is. Hey, it's Rico Pallazzo, Fantasy Baseball Podcast, presented by RotoFanatic.com, RotoFanatic.com, RotoFanatic.com. The weekend has tons of great articles, schedule factors, infirmary report, closing remarks, Mr. Dr. Mike Carter, Davey Funnel, Crosby Spencer. These people are here to help you, okay? They're here to help. All right, let's talk quickly about doppelgangers. So doppelgangers are players with similar profiles with different results. Now, a doppelganger, to me, is always someone who looks just like someone else. Out there right now, there's a Justin Mason doppelganger out there. I don't know who he is.
Apparently, he's a firefighter in a neighboring town, because that's I get mistaken for this guy. I don't know his name, but this guy, people on the street stop me like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know you," and they're like, "Oh wait, you look like my friend who's a firefighter in Petaluma," and I don't know him. But
sounds like a great guy though.
He does exist, and he's a firefighter. He's a first responder. He's got to be a good guy, right?
Of course.
Duh. All right. So Justin, why don't you lead us off here? We obviously gave some heads up so that you could do a little bit of homework, which is not something that's fun as a guest. You're supposed to just come on and relax and just go with the flow. So I forced you to do a little bit of work, and I apologize for that. But why don't you give us a doppelganger out there that could help us expose a potentially juicy and useful player?
Yeah, so if you look at the Statcast profiles for Xander Bogaerts and Willy Adames, they're awfully similar. Very similar hard hit rates, very similar barrel percentages. Very, very similar kind of profile. And while Willy Adames has gotten some pub since moving to Milwaukee in that trade from the Rays, he's been really, really good. And he's becoming more and more Xander Bogaerts-like. So far in 117 plate appearances, 4 home runs, a stolen base. He's hitting 280 in Milwaukee. I think this is a guy that should be more widely owned in the shallower formats, and he's not being.
Beautiful. That's a great comp there. It's hard to believe that Willy Adames.
I'm just laughing at Daniel's comment here.
Yeah, Daniel says, I missed out on the firefighter version. What the hell? Yeah, you got screwed, Daniel. I'm sorry about that.
Sorry, Ben.
But Willy Adames was someone, as Tigers fans, me and Deary, I know I was excited about his future potential and profile, and I did expect him to be a power bat as a shortstop, maybe moving to third, the classic progression like Cal Ripken and A-Rod before him. Not that he's either of those players, but Xander Bogaerts is an elite player, and in fact, he's underrated. And I was talking yesterday, he is. Dave from Rotosaurus brought it up yesterday in the chat. The preseason fear about Xander Bogaerts' shoulder. Remember that? Mm-hmm. For a minute there, and suddenly people were freaking out, because I remember that Monday night we were talking. It was right after TGFBI got rolling, I believe, and you had like a Monday night kind of live stream bullshit chat. And that was when Xander had the shoulder issue, and he was dropping slightly in the rankings and ADP. And I'm like, this is insane. This is an overreaction. We don't know. And it might not be that bad. And it turned out to be nothing. So if people got a break and were able to get Xander at a cheaper rate, that's great. But I always say, don't let those, it's a reminder of the preseason analysis and all that goes into that. Relax, slow your roll. Stick to what you know, don't panic, and don't assume anything until you absolutely know for sure.
Absolutely. I think one of the problems with early spring training news is we're so starved for news that as soon as a guy gets hurt, everybody freaks out, and we don't wait to like actually get useful information. And I mean, he's been amazing this year.
He really has. All right, Jerry, give us somebody who's a doppelganger of the other person.
God, this one was really tough. I also have a doppelganger who was from the neighboring town of Northville that I actually knew in high school. He actually dated one of my friends. And back when I had hair back then, this guy looked exactly like me. He was a total fucking douchebag. And I didn't really like him. I remember he went to Western Michigan with me and I drove him home one weekend and I looked over at him and I go, do you realize that you look exactly like me? And he's like, oh yeah, I've been like fearful of this like ever since I met you. Yeah, so I got a quick one for you.
That's intense.
Zach Wheeler and German Marquez have very similar Statcasts. The most similar thing is with their swinging strike rate. They're both at 13.2%. Zach Wheeler is having an incredible season. German Marquez, not so much, but I think there's something deeper into this. So Zach Wheeler, 2.36 ERA. German Marquez just got below 4 with an ERA. Had another nice start today. I think German Marquez might be a guy that you can buy here in the second half. What's killed Marquez this year is 2 outings. He gave up 8 runs this season. He's got 2 other outings where he gave up 4 runs. All his other outings have been really, really good. What's killed him is he's not been able to get out of innings when guys are on base. 69% LOB, so that's left on base percentage. Zach Wheeler's at 81%. I think Zach Wheeler is going to come back to earth a little bit. That ERA is going to rise closer to 3, and I think Marquez is going to be pretty serviceable down the stretch here. 3 out of his last 4 starts have been really, really good. I think there's an opportunity where maybe the Rockies move on from him and he heads over to a contender. And if he can just stay away from the walks, I think he has an opportunity to really be helpful down the stretch for a lot of teams.
Ooh, that's a great call, man. That makes a lot of sense. Zach Wheeler has been a revelation of sorts. He's taken it to the next level and become one of, I mean, certainly top 10 starting pitcher right now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's an incredible year for a Phillies team that just is not performing that well in a shitty East.
Do you think he's borderline top 10, or in your opinion, Justin, he's just outside of that? Only because you don't trust him? I know you're making a face. I'm not sure. Are you farting?
No, I'm sorry. My wife just flashed me.
Hey, Danielle!
Yeah, beautiful.
Showing her boobies. You've seen that show before, man. I'm talking about Zach Wheeler. You've never seen this show. You've never seen Zach Wheeler dominate like he has.
Yeah, Wheeler is an interesting guy because, like, I literally said, like, on podcasts and in my analysis coming into the season, like, I have no idea what to make of Zach Wheeler. Like, I just didn't know what, like, he gave up the strikeouts last year for more contact, and that worked really well. I didn't know if it was going to work over the course of a full season. Like, none of it made sense. And so I just kind of avoided him and wish I hadn't, because he's been absolutely fantastic. I do think he's a top 10 pitcher. I think there's an argument that he could even be a top 5 pitcher the rest of the way.
Wow. We all knew it could happen, just wasn't sure if or when it would happen. That's the big mystery with Zach Wheeler. But good on him. He always had the talent. He was a super, super, super duper prospect all the way. Yeah. Not a mystery. I went with some of it matched up, enough of it matched up where I thought it was interesting. Bo Bichette and Dansby Swanson. Now, Bo has hit the ball harder, so I'll give you that. They don't have the same exit velocity or max EV, really. You know, it's quite 8 miles an hour more for Mr. Bichette than it is Swanson, but they have a lot of similarities with the hard hit rate, the K rate, and the walk rate. So it leads me to believe, if the opportunity presented itself for Swanson to put a little more stink on that ball, and, you know, with the launch angle as well, you know, 4.7 for Mr. Bichette. Swanson's been at a 13.5. So that tells me that it's less line drives. And if you look at the line drive profile, I would love to see more of that from Swanson, more flyouts, which is kind of a bummer. But they strike out at an equal rate and they're walking at a similar rate. It's just a matter of the launch angle and the exit velocity. I feel like if there's some slight adjustments there for Swanson, he could be someone who's much more useful, raise up that OBP, which is still under 3, which is fucking nuts. That Dansby Swanson has an OBP under 300. He's not a super duper walk guy, never has been. But the fact, you know, a 300 base OBP is still pretty shitty, and he can't even get there still. So I really think that there's some talent. We know he has the super pedigree of being a number 1 overall pick. If he could just slightly modify some of those mechanics, maybe that's what it is, I think he could really take off. And because I see him more of as like a line drive hitter, like Bo Bichette can be. and he's not doing that exactly. But if he can make that adjustment, then I think all the other profile matches up fairly well. They're both pretty quick. They both have similar size. So I think there's something there. Now, maybe it's not a perfect doppelganger, and I made up the segment, so I'll take the blame if this is totally bogus. Justin, why don't you give us another one?
Let's see. Oh, I went a little bit different. So I went with John Gant and Justice Sheffield. If you so John Gant's been pretty good this year, but man, you look underneath that hood and it is a lot like Justice Sheffield, which has not been good. Giving up a lot of hard contact. FIP and XFIP are like through the roof. I think if you have gotten the goodness out of John Gant, now is the time to jump off board and get away from it as quickly as possible, because I think he's going to end up a guy who ends up like finishing the season with like a 5 ERA, and much of it is going to come rest of the way.
Wow, John fucking Gant. Now we are hitting on all cylinders. That's the kind of show I wanted to do. You are a genius, sir. That's fucking great. John Gant's so dumb, but he
started today against the Tigers and got the loss. Yeah, he can't stay within the strike zone. He has a really, really hard time hitting the zone.
Yeah.
I thought Justice Sheffield would take it up a notch this year too. That was something I thought he was undervalued, and again, it was a short sample size last year in 2020, but what I saw from him, I was like, oh, I think there's something going on here. And he also had the pedigree of being an elite prospect, but haven't quite seen that yet. So I would love to see, in fact, a team that is over 500 by 3 games now, the Mariners. I would love to see Justice Sheffield be a part of that growth and continuation. Deary. Oh, by the way, in that game with John Gant, Matt Manning got his first Major League Baseball victory. Great news for Matt Manning. Did you watch that, Deary? Did you happen to catch that game today?
No, I was at work. I was listening to it. Did he get to the 7th or no?
No, he went to the 6th.
He went 6th? Did he go 6 straight?
5 and 2/3.
Okay.
And fucking 1K. 1K, man. It's a weird line.
That's going to be his issue. That's going to be his issue, I think.
He stays in the game. He doesn't give up a lot of hard contact, but he's not striking out anybody, and he got his first win. It's very strange. I know, as an outsider, real quick, Justin, Matt Manning, any interest, anything you know about him that piques your interest?
I mean, the pedigree makes my interest a little piqued. He was a bit underwhelming in his first 2 starts. Yeah. And like the fastball command isn't great. And when you don't have like an elite fastball and your fastball command isn't great, that's going to tend to lead to home runs. I think that may be an issue for him. I like the secondary stuff. The secondary stuff's pretty good. And he may be a guy that if maybe they work on a little bit better sequencing, that does a little bit better. But right now I'm wishing I hadn't spent so much on him in FAAB.
Oh, yeah. I wish you would have hit me up. I would have told you not to do that.
Yeah.
Because even I love him. I'm excited about him, but it's just not – he's not worth Alec Manoah.
I don't think it's big fantasy relevance. I think him being like a number 3, number 4 starter for a team that could be up and coming will be exciting for us, but I don't know if the fantasy value is going to be there on the level of a Mize and Skubal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Or Logan Gilbert. It's not really close right now, to be honest with you. All right, Deary, give us one more.
Yeah, I got Tyler Naquin and Jorge Soler. So if you would have told me at the start of the season that Tyler Naquin would be having a much better season than Jorge Soler, I'd tell you to fuck off. Tyler Naquin has 46 RBIs. Jorge Soler only has 28. Now, here's what's similar with them. They have the exact same barrel percentage. They have the exact same hard hit rate. What's killing Soler, I feel like Soler is just getting to a point where he has to heat up at some point. His launch angle is up. Like it's up by like 5% right now. But he just keeps hitting these towering fly balls to the outfield. I think what's starting to kill him is line drive percentage is down a ton. This guy has super power and amazing max exit velocity that he can hit line drives out of the park, but it just has not been happening. What's been encouraging the last month is he's actually starting to cut back on the strikeouts, and he's starting to walk a lot more. So in the last month, 18 strikeouts, 12 walks. So that's encouraging. I think during these summer months, I got to believe that Jorge Soler is going to heat up. He's got 6 home runs. Sure, he's not going to be a guy who's going to bat 250, but you can't tell me that the 40-plus home runs a few years ago was just a total fluke. I don't think home runs are a fluke unless you're Brady Anderson back in the early 90s. So I think he's a guy who certainly in his most down time, he'll still be able to put up 25 to 30 home runs. So I feel like he's going to start to come around at some point. Naquin's been great. Like, he hasn't hit a home run in a long time, but he's been like over 400 in the last couple of weeks. So he's really been good. But it's really interesting to see these comps as these guys being doppelgangers in the outfielders in the outfield for their respective teams. But I feel like Soler, you could buy real cheap right now. I'm not going to give you the average, but I think he's going to start hitting home runs in bunches here.
All right, two quick things there. Last night, Tyler Naquin was one of Govier's guys, had a 3-run homer. So he did hit a home run last night. That's his 12th of the year. And secondly, Eric Cross, did you hear that? Eric Cross has been ready to bail on Jorge Soler in our tag team league. Little secret tip for you there, Justin. Which, how are you guys doing, by the way? You and Shelly, right? You guys hanging tough?
We're right behind you in the standings in 4th place, and we are creeping up. If we can get Jack Flaherty back, that would be really helpful. We got Zach Gallen back and pitched very well in his last start. So
he did 8 Ks.
You would think a team with Vlad Guerrero and Cedric Mullins would be in first place, but the pitching has been a little bit of a problem in that league for us, especially the saves. So I was telling Shelly the other day, I think we still got a really good shot of winning that league.
Yeah, Eric thinks we have a good shot too. So it's going to be a hell of a second half. It's going to be exciting. It's going to go down the wire. It's a really cool league. I'm really glad to be a part of it. I never co-managed a team before, and it's an interesting experience to say the least.
It is. It's been a really fun league and super competitive. In the last 2 weeks, we've been as high as first place in the league and as low as 11th place in the last.
Holy shit!
Oh wow,
so
that's crazy.
That tells you just how much the standings are still moving, especially in a league that competitive.
Wow.
And for those of you that don't know, we're talking about Matty Davis's Matty Wood on Twitter. Please follow Matty. He created this tag team league of some of the people who wanted to be tag teamers. And it's big money, too. It was a $500 entry total between split 2 ways. So there's big money at stake, and there's a lot of people who know what they're doing in that league, and it's a lot of fun. But I don't look at the standings on purpose because I just want to keep grinding. I know what we need, and I know what we need to do, but I don't like obsessing over these constant standing shifts because they can drive me nuts. You're like, we lost it. It's just, but you should probably check in once a week. But I let Eric do that for us.
Oh, I check in hourly. I've actually, I literally right before you asked that question, I was just checking the standings of that particular league.
What do we got? Live update.
You guys have lost 4 points today. We've gained 1.5 points. We are currently 4.5 points behind you in the standings. So we're coming for you.
Somebody must have fucked us tonight then. I hope it wasn't Frankie Montas or something.
Yeah, we had
our team.
We had Dylan Cease, who went 7 strong, only gave up 1 run in the win versus Pittsburgh. So
nice. Frankie Montas got torched the other day and really hurt us. That was
that hurt my team.
And I know you like Montas.
I love Montas. I still like him. I think a lot of people are going to drop him after this week, and I will be picking him up. The underlying numbers are much better than the surface stats. And if you go back and watch that game yesterday, like he struggled in the first inning, and then pitched really well before he gave up a 3-run home run right before he was pulled in the 6th. So he just has a trouble giving up that one big inning. He really needs to rely more on the splitter. Splitter's such a good pitch, and he's just not throwing it nearly enough. I trust Oakland to work it out for him.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe the splitter wasn't working because when it's not working, it causes problems for him, which is a typical issue for splitter-heavy pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to name that runner a FAAB bid, but we run a little long, so we'll just leave that. It's a fun game, but you're not really going to gain a tremendous amount of information from it. We love playing the game. We'll play it another day. Don't worry, Justin. It'll be a reason for you to come back.
It's a bummer because my first one was going to be a guy that went in the tag team league.
Let's do one. Let's do one just for Justin.
Mentos, the fresh maker.
All right, let's do it. Here we go. Name that runner of FAAB bid. Special edition, 1 round only. Justin Mason, give us that player and give us the winning bid so we can guess the runner-up bid.
Shelly and I won Michael Fulmer, a closer who was dropped in that league for $152.
Yeah, I saw that price. Actually, now that you say that, that's a hell of a price. So what was that?
For someone who is not really set as their closer, they have no idea what they're doing. They're rolling 3 guys out there.
No, he's the closer. He really is right now. Look at
Dan Dickerson doesn't know what he's talking about, because every single time one of those guys comes in at the end of the game, Dickerson talks about, well, they don't really know who the closer is. It's either Fulmer, it's Soto, it's Cisnero, and this is kind of what Hinch, hints at as well. But I actually think that Fulmer is the best option out of those guys.
Look, I don't hear the broadcast, so that's a fair point. But I'm just looking at the actions. Since he's come off the IL, he's been given the opportunities.
Exactly.
Even though Soto got that one save, but that seems to be the anomaly. And Soto came in the 6th inning today. So, good
152, 152, Justin.
And for context, we bid 152 because there are 9 teams within 5 saves of each other.
Wow. That's a lot. That's so tight. It's so intense. All right, so 152. I'm going to say somebody needs saves, and Michael Fulmer was a hot pickup this week across the leagues. But somebody pay 100 triple digits for Fulmer? Somebody, you did, but doesn't mean somebody else would. I'm really torn here, man. I'll say 112. That's my guess. Deary, what about you?
I mean, it's tough because he gave great context into why they bid 152. I'm going to say 88.
34.
God damn it.
Yeah. Which and when I give you that context of the league, this is why we bid so much.
Exactly.
Because everybody in that, no joke. I mean, the 4th place team in saves has 27, and the 4th to last has 22.
Holy shit.
Michael Fulmer may turn out to be what wins us of the league if we win it, if he ends up giving us an extra 6 saves on top of where we would have been in the season. I mean, it's just, I don't understand why nobody else in the league, especially in that clusterfuck of saves, wasn't bidding more. So,
well, you better hope he stays in Detroit then.
You know what's funny about the standings? I've already brought this up before, so it's kind of not cool. But the fact that Maddie created this league.
Don't do
fucking dead last.
It's good.
Who's his partner?
Matt Kupferle.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, they do podcasts together. They always, in fact, I thought he would have a massive advantage, Deary, because him and Kupferle, they've been co-managing. They not only created it, but they've been co-managing teams. He talked about that when he came on the Pallazzo Pod earlier this year, that they've been doing it. They have experience co-managing, and they're in last. It's fucking funny.
Is it more embarrassing that he's last in this league, or that if I beat him in the Barf League this year, he has to get a Justin Mason face tattooed on his ass?
Wow.
No way.
Yes. That's like 24 hours at Waffle House type shit.
What if what if he beats you, Justin?
Nothing.
Low risk. That's why Justin's a genius.
This is the best bet I've ever made, because he was talking shit last year before the 2020 season and said, "Oh, there is no way that Justin is going to beat me this year in the Barf League." It was his first year in the Barf League. And he said, "If Justin beats me, I will get the Justin Mason face tattooed on my ass." And then COVID happens. And he approaches me and he's all, "Hey, do you mind if we move this to next season? Because of, we've now drafted, almost 6 months in advance of our actual season starting," or whatever it was. Yeah, I mean, 5 months in advance of the actual season starting. I was like, "Yeah, dude, this wasn't even really a bet. You just said you would do it. Of course, if you want to move it." So he ends up winning the league last season, in which he wouldn't have had to get the tattoo. And now we're on a horse race, him and I.
Wow.
So I can't wait. I will live stream the tattoo if he ends up having to get it.
By the way, do you guys know who's number 1 in the overall Earth standings of all those regional leagues?
I do not. Is it you? Wow. Glorfing it up.
It's one of my proudest moments so far. I've definitely been competitive. The Glarf was a new regional league.
This is the first time you've said this. You're very humble about it, Michael.
Well, I've been
you just
in the
cursed
top.
Yourself.
Maybe I did. Yeah, I don't know. I've been in the top 10 a lot of the season, but this is the first time I actually took over first in our league, and apparently I have the most points, I think, based on these Earth standings, if I understand them correctly. But At any rate,
I haven't
Great
looked
job.
because I'm not doing well enough in barf to care about the overall yet.
yeah. Well, that's fair. But me and shout out to Lucas too, Lucas Beery, who's my fellow Glarfer. We're 1-2 overall, and we've been representing well, man. We're very excited about that. So,
John Fish just mentioned in the chat that Maddie's actually partnered with Zach Betancourt, and that is correct. So,
shit!
And Zach is a very good NFBC player. He's played in Barf as well. But yeah, let's give shout out to Zach. Matt Cooper is a very, very good NFBC player as well, but he's partnered with Zach.
Yeah, thanks for looking out, John. We don't want to have bogus information out here, so we do appreciate. John, I haven't seen you in the chat in a while either, man. Great to see you. So thank you for clarifying that, John Fish. John Fish knows this shit too, so you should follow him on Twitter. He knows everything there is to know about. He's a big-time high-stakes fantasy player. Trust me, good dude. So yeah, Glarf's representing well. It's been a lot of fun, and I lucked real quick. I just, drafting Carlos Rodon, Freddie Peralta have been huge booms for me because those guys have been giving a massive return. And the pitching has been everything. I even drafted Dylan Bundy, dearie. But I've been able to.
And you drafted him like 20 rounds before those other two guys you mentioned, too.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. He's still on my team, technically. I'm not dropping him yet, but he has not actually been in my lineup in weeks and weeks and weeks. And Jesus Luzardo, who's been a total nothing. So.
Yeah, sent down.
We'll see what happens. Long way to go. But, man, so much we talked about today. Always a pleasure to have Justin Mason aboard. Fantasy baseball. Life, something else. I'm sure we talked about something else besides fantasy baseball.
People being afraid of driving.
Yes, that's right. Terror on the streets. And as we say goodbye to Justin Mason, don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow, with another show. Yeah, that'll be our Friday show. We'll be on Thursday with Paul Mamino, P. Mamino Fantasy on Twitter, and Crosby Spencer at Crosby Spencer, numerical 1 on Twitter. Follow both those guys. We'll talk Roto Fanatic stuff. We'll talk fantasy baseball. We'll have a good time. And, of course, the Sunday evening FAAB show, FAAB and Streamers, end of week show. We take a look as we head into week 14, fellas. We're flying by. Week 14 will be upon us, which takes us into July and 4th of July weekend after that. Thank you, Danielle, for saying that. Justin, farewell comments are now available to you.
Yeah, I mean, thank you guys so much for having me. It was an absolute blast, as always. Love coming on, and I'll come back anytime. Follow me, Justin Mason FWFB. I write at places, I podcast at places.
Beautifully said. That's oh yes, the friends with fantasy benefits, of course, and no fantasy football for Justin this year. Just sticking to baseball and his family. All right, so he's C Deary 1999. I'm at MJ Govier, GOVs and Victor IER, and that'll do it. We'll see you guys on the Thursday show. Thanks for your time and energy.